Under the moonlight, Blackstone City was even livelier than during the day, its magic crystal lamps glowing along every street and the mercenary tavern roaring with unusual noise. And what was even more absurd was that Blackstone City at night seemed to have cheat codes enabled for gourmet food, the whole street thick with a fragrant aroma that made Lu Chen lift his nose and sniff, gasping, "My goodness," as his hunger value plummeted straight down. A system notice flashed up, announcing a Blackstone barbecue skewer of fine grade, priced at 5 silver coins, granting hunger value plus 40 and a 5% boost to stamina recovery speed for 30 minutes. And the moment he bought one, it entered his backpack with its quantity changed to infinite, prompting an astonished "sugoi." This was countless times better than the inferior meat he'd been eating before. So delicious that even in reality Lu Chen had never tasted barbecue skewers this good. And as the hunger and stamina buffs ticked through, he found the corners of his mouth curving upward in satisfaction. He called out to the stall owner for more kidneys, crocodile meat, anything left in the fridge, and the boss happily obliged, skewer after skewer flooding into his backpack as infinite stock. Crimson Flame, Savage Beef Skewer, Ice-Scaled Silver Fish Skewer, Magic Vine, Pig King Ribs, Cloud Feather Bird Meatballs, Night Star Mushroom Skewer, Golden Horn Deer Meat Skewer, and more besides. Until by the time he finished eating, he walked away with a nosebleed, utterly certain that life in the main city couldn't compare to the novice village. He let out a satisfying burp, thoroughly full and at ease, and decided it was time to sleep. Lu Chen made his way to the Silver Deer Inn, where the landlady, a charming middle-aged woman, brightened the instant she noticed the equipment light effects shimmering around him. He asked for the best room, and her eyes lit up as she named the Silver Deer Suite at 1 gold coin a night, complete with a protective array, hot water, dinner, and a basic fatigue recovery package. He paid on the spot, a gold coin leaving his pocket in exchange for a Silver Deer Suite key, a temporary permission item that couldn't be duplicated, and went upstairs into a spacious room with a clean wooden bed, a night view of the city through the window, and faint protective runes carved into the walls. It was thoroughly comfortable. His status window confirmed it all. Nickname Night God, level 12, class Blood Shadow Hunter, a lifespan of 173 years. Total prestige value 225, with Blackstone City prestige at 130. Hunger value 100/100ths, and fatigue status listed as slight. His first promotion complete, his level raised, his prestige skyrocketing, and his stockpiles of gold coins, purple gold coins, intermediate potions, main city scrolls, stealth scrolls, barrier scrolls, and high-level food all sitting at infinite. Sitting by the window gazing out over Blackstone City, he found himself wondering what progress other countries might have made by now, reasoning that Blackwater City surely wasn't the only main city out there. And that thought dragged him back to something that had nagged at him ever since his transmigration. The strange system voice that had once declared Blue Star Civilization had been selected. Doesn't that mean he started, then caught himself? Forget it. Sleep first. Staying alive and getting stronger mattered more than anything else right now. Settling that in his mind, he shut the window and pulled out a low-level barrier scroll, confirming its use. And a light blue barrier rose from the room's 4 corners to envelop the entire Silver Deer Suite, generating with a duration of 60 minutes. Deciding an hour wasn't enough, he burned through several more barrier scrolls in succession, each one confirming successful use, layering barrier upon barrier until the room's sense of security was completely maxed out. After all, the scrolls were infinite, so it would be a waste not to use them. He followed up by sticking a low-level stealth scroll by the window, which took effect by reducing the area's presence and dampening low-level probing skills. Then decided to add even more, reasoning aloud that he was a heavy sleeper and would be at a serious disadvantage if someone tried to take advantage of that to attack him. One more system prompt asked whether he wanted to activate the low-level damage reflection shield, and he confirmed it, noting that it worked best paired with barriers even if the reflected damage was underwhelming. The first attack would reflect 50%, but anything after that only 10%. Still, it would have to do. With those thoughts still lingering, Lu Chen collapsed onto the bed to rest, but just as he was about to drift off, a grand system prompt sounded in his ear, announcing that 100 players across the Blue Star Civilization had completed their first-class advancement, and that the Blue Star Civilization Progress Leaderboard was now officially open, with 4 leaderboards active: Level, Class Advancement, Reputation, and Lifespan. noting that the top 100 players would gain varying degrees of civilization attention and that rankings would settle every 7 days with rewards distributed accordingly. Lu Chen's eyes shot open, and he sat bolt upright, startled not by the leaderboard itself but by the fact that out of billions of people across the Blue Star civilization, only 100 had managed a first-class advancement in a single day. A massive virtual panel unfurled before him. The level leaderboard put him first as Night God of the Daxia region at level 12, Blood Shadow Hunter, with Augustus of the Europe region second at level 11 as a Holy Spear Knight, Miyamoto Sosuke of Sakura District third at level 11 as a Shadow Warrior, Thunder God Thomas of the North America region fourth at level 10 as a Thunder Warrior, and Anubis of the Desert region fifth at level 10 as a Necromancer. He noted with some satisfaction that other regions besides Daxia did appear on the board, though all of them trailed a full level behind him, and he found himself intrigued by their classes, especially the Necromancer, which he suspected might be a Calamity-level class if it managed to grow. Scrolling further, the class advancement leaderboard showed him first again with a special first advancement rated perfect, Augustus second with a hidden first advancement rated excellent, Miyamoto Sosuke third, likewise hidden and excellent, Flame Young Master fourth from the Daxia region with an ordinary first advancement rated excellent, and Bailu fifth, also Daxia, with a special support first advancement rated excellent. Lu Chen reasoned the ranking must weigh evaluation rather than class rarity, and found it faintly absurd that Flame Young Master's merely ordinary advancement had still landed him a spot. The reputation leaderboard followed, with Lu Chen first at a total reputation value of 225, Augustus second at 91, Miyamoto Sosuke third at 88, Balu fourth at 76, and Flame Young Master fifth at 65. And finally, the lifespan leaderboard placed him first at 173 years, Augustus second at 116, Balu third at 113, Miyamoto Sosuke fourth at 111, and Thunder God Thomas fifth at 109. He'd topped every single leaderboard, and his lifespan lead in particular was by a landslide. And this was even while capped by the daily absorption limits on lifespan crystals and lifespan fruit. Without that cap, he suspected everyone else's lifespans combined still wouldn't touch his lead. A moment later, the Blue Star Civilization chat channel erupted into chaos, voices blending together. Thunder God Thomas scoffing that a level 12 Daxia player topping the charts had to be a joke. Miyamoto Sosuke wondering aloud how anyone pulled off a perfect evaluation special advancement. Augustus remarking that the Daxia region truly was full of hidden talent. Flame Young Master brushing it off as luck while Balu needled him for claiming a leaderboard spot on nothing but an ordinary advancement. Taishan cackling at the exchange. Thunder God Thomas pivoting to invite Night God to defect to North America with the promise of the best treatment. A Daxia player named Bai, he needling back that their region wasn't lacking talent either. Someone from Sakura District begging him to publicize whatever special guide he must have used. A Daxia player telling that person to get lost. Others marveling that a 173-year lifespan must mean he'd borrowed 70 years from the heavens. And still others admitting they'd been stunned since levels and advancements could be caught up to, but lifespan couldn't. Amid it all, one Daxia voice simply cheered him on. Lu Chen only skimmed the scrolling messages for a moment before closing the channel. The idea of making his guide public or contributing it to the Blue Star Civilization was laughable. He could trade resources, sell intelligence, sell passage tokens, but give any of it away for free was out of the question. And selling to the Cherry Blossom country was even more unthinkable, especially since every advantage he held had been built step by step through his own effort and had nothing to do with any guide. A notice then informed him that having topped all 4 Blue Star leaderboards, he'd earned a special reward. A civilization chest of mythic grade, to be distributed at the 7-day settlement, and his eyes lit up at the name alone, even if it meant waiting. As long as he held the top spot, the reward was his regardless, though he acknowledged the coming week might get difficult keeping the others from catching up. Smiling to himself, he lay back down and fell asleep, only for a dark figure to creep into the Silver Deer Hotel in the dead of night. Flame Young Master, hissing that night God was finished, that he'd come to set the room on fire, that he intended to burn him straight to death, boasting that he'd just awakened an exclusive skill called the Never-Extinguishing Flame and was about to show off exactly how impressive it was. Early the next morning, Lu Chen stretched, having slept extremely well, and was still congratulating himself on it when the system prompt sounded again, announcing that a new day had begun, that lifespan crystal absorption times had refreshed to 10 out of 10, that lifespan fruit absorption times had likewise refreshed to 10 out of 10, and that entries into the Mirror Lake Ruins dungeon had refreshed to 3 out of 3. Without hesitation, he opened his backpack to absorb his infinite stock of lifespan crystals first, one adding a year to his lifespan, another adding 5, and then 10 lifespan fruit at once adding 50 more years, until his current lifespan read 233 years. Up from 173 the day before, gained in a single day, and he couldn't help laughing at the number, calculating that if it kept climbing 60 years a day, 10 days would mean 600 years, and 100 days would mean 6,000. All while countless players in Domain still trembled at the thought of losing a mere few years of lifespan from a single death. He was already wondering what problem it would be to have too much lifespan on his hands. The lifespan leaderboard refreshed accordingly, putting him first again at 233 years, with Augustus second at only 118, Balu third at 115, Miyamoto Sosuke fourth at 113, and Thunder God Thomas fifth at 110. A genuine, staggering gap, with second place barely half of what Liu Chen now held, and the whole Blue Star channel erupted again once people realized his 173 years from the previous night had ballooned to 233 overnight. Voices piled on top of each other. Thunder God Thomas sputtering in disbelief. Augustus asking outright how his lifespan had jumped 60 years overnight. Miyamoto Sosa calling it unreasonable. Balu joking that maybe he'd been sleeping wrong. Others grumbling that dying cost them 3 years while Night God gained 60 just by sleeping. Someone accusing Domain of playing favorites with the Daxia region, a Daxia player mocking the others for panicking. Someone from Sakura District demanding he make his lifespan growth method public as a shared resource of the Blue Star civilization, a Daxia player retorting that they should publicize their own family savings instead, and Anubis observing gravely that lifespan was the core currency of Domain and that Night God was already leading everyone by an entire era. Liu Chen skimmed it all briefly and closed the channel without much interest. He couldn't be bothered with what he considered clowns. And though everyone technically belonged to Blue Star, the Daxia camp was still its own thing, bound together by shared stakes in a way the rest weren't. After a quick wash, he left the room, thinking that when he had free time, he ought to spend a single purple gold coin on a residence rather than staying in an inn every day. Stepping outside, he found a crowd gathered near the entrance, buzzing about a fire supposedly set in the inn the night before. Someone confirming it was real, adding that the arsonist himself was apparently an idiot since the fire never spread, and he'd burned himself to death instead, prompting others to laugh at the sheer number of fools in the world these days. Liu Chen caught the gist from the chattering NPCs. Someone had set a fire and ended up killing themselves with it, and, muttering that the man was a massive idiot, walked off without another thought. His plan for the day was clear. Money wasn't a problem anymore. Not gold coins, nor even purple gold coins, both effectively infinite. What he actually needed now was prestige, rare resources, intelligence, and main city permissions. His status panel still read nickname Night God, level 12, class Blood Shadow Hunter, lifespan 233 years, total prestige 225, and Blackstone City prestige 130. Right then, a friend message arrived from Bai He, reporting that their team had entered the Mirror Lake Ruins the previous night, hadn't cleared it, but had lit the first lighthouse and pulled in a decent haul of experience and materials, confirming that the guide Liu Chen had sold them was genuine. Liu Chen shot back that, of course, what he sold couldn't be fake. He then said they wanted to buy a second pass token and mentioned a new item that might interest him, sending over its description a moment later. A low-level contract stone of rare grade, capable of binding both parties to a system contract, restricting their trading behavior. Liu Chen's eyes lit up. With an infinite supply of these, he could safely cultivate agents, lock in customers, and sign supply contracts. Whether with Bai He's Novice Village Alliance, or eventually with NPC Chambers of Commerce, since relying only on himself to move infinite resources would never scale the way having others sell on his behalf could. He agreed to take it, and He proposed trading one pass token plus a batch of potions for the contract stone, which Liu Chen accepted. The remote trade went through moments later, netting him a low-level contract stone of rare grade whose quantity immediately turned infinite in his backpack. Useful to keep in reserve, he decided. With that settled, he pulled out the damaged animal skin map, a prop meant for locating unknown areas from the main city, distinct from the low-level dungeon positioning scroll. and used it to search for the abandoned hunting ground. The map dissolved into a pale yellow point of light pointing northwest of Blackstone City, revealing the area with a recommended level of 12 to 15 and a warning about heavy traps, hounds, and runaway hunter wraiths, which struck Lu Chen as nothing less than the first beginner dungeon tailor-made for a forbidden class, and he grinned, ready to go test the waters. A prompt informed him he'd left the safe zone of Blackstone City and entered the Blackstone Wilderness, warning that the death penalty out here had increased, and Lu Chen glanced at it with a shrug, muttering that it was a good thing he had 233 years of lifespan to spare, or he really would have been frightened. He pulled out a skewer of blazing barbarian beef to steady his nerves, then drank a gale potion and an eagle eye potion, boosting his agility by 20% for 5 minutes and his critical hit rate and attack range by 10% each for the same duration. Layered a Wind Guardian buff on top, and activated a low-level stealth scroll to slip into stealth. Buffs maxed out, he reasoned, to avoid any accidents. Following the map's guidance, he sprinted toward the abandoned hunting ground, and a dozen minutes later came upon a stretch of decaying wooden fences hung with tattered animal skins and rusted iron hooks, a crooked sign marking the entrance as the abandoned hunting ground itself. The moment he crossed into its range, his shadow blood perception triggered automatically, painting pale red traces across the air, an effect he found impressive, letting him clearly make out bloodstains, footprints, and even traps hidden in the grass that an ordinary player would likely have stumbled straight into. Fortunately, a blood shadow hunter's perception was tailor-made to counter this kind of sneaky terrain, and besides, as he put it, even as an archer, he happened to be something of an expert at disarming traps himself. He crouched and dismantled the first animal trap, pulling a rusted animal trap of excellent grade into his backpack, with its quantity instantly turning infinite, delighted at the thought of dropping traps all the way through the dungeon from here on, and kept going. A rusted tripwire of excellent grade, then a poison spike mechanism of excellent grade, both likewise turning infinite the moment they entered his backpack. Within minutes, he'd swept every trap along the periphery of the abandoned hunting ground before even engaging a single monster. Then a low bark sounded from the grass ahead, and 3 hunting dogs with grayish-black fur and glowing green eyes slunk out from behind the dead wood. Level 12 Rotten Fang hounds classed as excellent monsters, each with 4,200 GP, 380 physical attack, 160 physical defense, and skills including Rotten Fang, Bite, Pounce, and Blood Scent tracking. An ordinary level 12 player facing 3 at once would likely have turned and fled, but Lu Chen held his ground, casting Shadow Blood Mark to put his target into the Shadow Blood state, then flicked an animal trap onto the ground just as the first hound moved to charge. It clamped down on the hound's front leg with a sharp snap, cutting its movement speed by 40% as the creature yelped in pain. Grinning, Lu Chen drew his reinforced +10 Mirror Blood Hunter bow and loosed a Shadow Strike arrow, the blood-silver light striking the hound's left eye for a weakness hit, dealing 9,820 damage, followed by a Mirror Shadow Pursuit trigger for another 4,100, and a Shadow Blood Mark trigger for 4,920 more. A single arrow enough to drop the full health hound on the spot, earning him 600 exp and a Rotten Fang canine of excellent grade, its quantity likewise turning infinite. Before the remaining 2 hounds could close the distance, the Shadow Blood Mark automatically transferred to them, and Lu Chen answered with a storm arrow rain that blanketed the area, pinning both hounds and draining their health bars almost instantly, netting him 1,200 more exp along with 2 stinky hound hides of excellent grade and an infinite stock of hound blood sacs. Looking over the 3 corpses, he couldn't help but smile at how dramatically his damage had shifted since his first class advancement. Weakness Hunt, Mirror Shadow Pursuit, and Shadow Blood Mark, combined with the Mirror Blood Hunter bow and Blood Mirror Quiver, meant every weakness hit chained into a cascade of explosive damage. And this, he thought, was exactly what a hidden class ought to feel like. He pressed deeper into the hunting ground, where the traps grew denser and the hounds more numerous the further he went, though none of it posed any real threat. Level 12 hounds were little more than live targets for him, and with animal traps scattered everywhere the pack seemed almost paralyzed, unwilling to move rashly. A stream of loot rewards followed. Hunting ground hemp, rope of common grade, a quenched poison iron nail of excellent grade, a damaged hunting net of excellent grade, and a rotten fang hound heart of rare grade, all infinite in quantity. The last of which particularly delighted him as a stroke of good luck, given its rare status. Pressing on, he eventually reached a dilapidated wooden house at the center of the hunting ground. A dozen withered animal skins swaying at its doorway like a row of hanged bodies in the wind, and standing before it a translucent figure. A middle-aged man carrying a hunting bow, head bowed, body pierced full of arrows, a rotting hound lying at his feet. The panel identified it as a level 13 out-of-control hunter spirit, a rare elite with 1-80000 HP, 520 physical attack, 220 physical defense, 180 magic defense, and skills including spirit hunting arrow, trap awakening, hound recall, and dying counterattack. Lu Chen raised his bow, but before he could act, the spirit lifted its head, addressing him in a hoarse voice as a young hunter who carried the scent of mirror blood, warning him to leave this place, that the hunting ground was no longer a hunting ground, and that whatever lay buried here would turn every hunter into prey. Lu Chen paused, brow raised, saying nothing, privately grumbling to himself about a phased boss dragging out such a long pre-battle monologue. And the next instant, a red light flared around the spirit as a notice declared it had entered a hostile state, the ground around him erupting as every animal trap, tripwire, and poison spike mechanism triggered at once. Realizing he'd walked straight into a nest of traps, Lu Chen yanked out a dozen low-level barrier scrolls in rapid succession, throwing up barrier after barrier as poison spikes, arrows, and tripwires slammed into them and shattered. And with a grin, he shot back that he wasn't the only one who knew how to set traps, that courtesy, after all, demanded reciprocity. Lu Chen backhanded out hundreds of animal traps and tripwires just as the Wraith Hunter took its first step forward, and in quick succession, it was caught by a rusted animal trap that slowed its movement and a damaged hunting net that briefly immobilized it. Lu Chen immediately cast Shadow Bloodmark, drew his bow, and loosed a Shadow Strike arrow that pierced the Wraith Hunter's brow for 11,200 damage, followed by Mirror Shadow Pursuit, Shadow Blood damage, and Bleed damage, all detonating together and tearing a huge chunk from its health bar, drawing a shrill roar from the creature as it triggered Hound Recall, summoning 7 corrupted Toothhounds out of the surging fog. Lu Chen used a random teleport scroll to vanish instantly from the hunter's line of sight, teleporting freely within a 5,000-meter range and taunting that it couldn't even hit him. Before raining arrows down on the 7 hounds from above, Shadow Bloodmark leaping frantically between them as 2 fell in quick succession and a Storm Arrow Rain Kill refunded its cooldown. While mopping up the minor mobs, he drank an intermediate mana potion and pressed on, and 30 seconds later, the Wraith Hunter's health dropped below 20%, at which point it let out an angry roar, stopped attacking, and to Lu Chen's alarm ignited every arrow lodged in its body with black fire. A warning flashed that it had activated Desperate Counterattack, a skill dealing massive true damage, and Lu Chen swore and retreated at once, unwilling to take true damage head-on. He activated Mirror Shadow Substitute, just as the Wraith Hunter blinked into a black shadow directly in front of him and slashed down with its black fire hunting knife, splitting his body open. Except what shattered wasn't flesh and blood, but the substitute itself, which absorbed the fatal blow and teleported him 20 meters away at random. Reappearing to the side, Lu Chen drew his bow again, declared it his turn, and fired a Shadow Strike arrow into the back of the Wraith Hunter's head for 15,800 damage, causing its body to stiffen and collapse, successfully killing the level 13 out-of-control Hunter Wraith, a rare elite, and earning 3,000 exp, 20 Blackstone City reputation, a soul-hunting quiver of rare grade that immediately became infinite, and a Wraith Hunter's tattered diary. Before he could even check his new gear, the diary flipped open on its own to a single line on the first page, that they hadn't been killed by beasts, but by whatever truly destroyed the hunting ground, something nailed underground. Lu Chen's eyes flickered with interest at the mention of a hidden area, and right then a warning tone announced that killing the out-of-control Hunter Wraith had awakened a hidden area beneath the abandoned hunting ground, the underground beast cage, recommended for level 15 with a danger rating of high. Deciding to take a look while promising himself he'd retreat with a town portal scroll at the first sign of trouble, Lu Chen made his way toward the newly opened underground entrance behind the wooden cabin, where a foul, hot wind greeted him at the threshold, and the faint sound of giant chains dragging echoed from somewhere deep in the darkness. The moment he entered the underground beast cage, a warning marked him with the beast cage will's prey mark, alerting him that for the next 10 minutes every monster inside would continuously sense his location. And no sooner had he processed that than a dense crawling sound rose from below. pairs of crimson eyes igniting in the dark as more than a dozen level 14 iron tooth hounds, classed as fine monsters with 7,800 GP, 610 physical attack, and 260 physical defense, charged out simultaneously, faster by a wide margin than the corrupted tooth hounds outside. Far from rattled, Lu Chen grinned at being cast as prey, insisting they had it backwards, and triggered Shadow Blood Mark to put the pack into the Shadow Blood state. The first hound stepped straight into an animal trap mid-pounce as Lu Chen used a random teleport scroll to fall back 30 meters, drew his bow, and fired a Shadow Strike arrow through its eye socket for a weak point hit of 12,880, a mirror Shadow Pursuit trigger of 5,200, and a Shadow Blood damage trigger of 6,100. Over 20,000 damage from a single arrow, enough to burst the hound apart on the spot for 900 exp and an infinite stock of Iron Tooth Fang. The mark leapt instantly to the second hound as Lu Chen unleashed Storm Arrow Rain, turning the underground passage into a slaughterhouse and earning 6,300 exp along with infinite Iron Tooth Hound Skin and Beast Cage Blood, the killing blow refunding the skill's cooldown. As he retreated, he continued laying traps from his now infinite stock scavenged from the abandoned hunting ground. Animal traps, tripwires, poison sting mechanisms. And despite the narrow terrain being poor ground for an archer, his sheer trap density combined with raw damage output cleared the passage of hound corpses within 2 minutes. Egging on another wave with a "keep coming, don't stop the exp and materials," he chugged an intermediate mana potion to top off his mana and unleashed another Storm Arrow Rain that dropped hound after hound in rapid succession, his experience bar surging as he pressed inward, reaping rewards. Because the tunnel grew too dark to see, he pulled out a lake lamp, and once lit, it revealed the space to be a vast underground prison. And right beside him, locked inside an iron cage, sat a giant hound covered in black fur. A level 15 chain hound classified as a rare monster, boasting 20,000 GP, 880 physical attack, 360 physical defense, and skills including Chain Pounce, Ripping Bleed, and Prey Drag. Lu Chen felt a flicker of alarm at the sight of it, though he was relieved to see the giant hound was still bound by iron chains, and reasoned it was best to strike before whatever mechanic it carried could trigger. After all, getting a rare-grade monster's reward for free felt too good to pass up. He fired a concussive arrow that struck the chained hound square between the eyes, triggering a stun that froze its body stiff, then followed immediately with Shadow Blood Mark and a Shadow Strike arrow for 15,800 damage, a mirror Shadow Pursuit trigger adding another 6,400, and a final armor-piercing arrow through its skull that finished it off, successfully killing the level 15 chained hound, a rare monster, for 2,500 exp and infinite quantities of chained hound heart and beast cage chain. Pocketing the loot, he pressed forward, but a hoarse voice suddenly drifted from ahead, muttering that someone was awake, and looking up, Lu Chen found an old man in a tattered hunter's cloak chained to the wall at the end of the passage, a black iron nail driven into his chest. Identified as the remnant soul-hunting groundkeeper, Roger, whose status read as on the verge of collapse. Walking over, Lu Chen asked who was awake, and the old man lifted his head with effort to warn him of a monster. The strongest hound, once cultivated by the Blackstone City Hunter Association, explaining that Lu Chen's arrival had already alerted it, and that it would come to kill him. Curious how he knew, Lu Chen pressed further, and Roger explained he'd helped forge the hound himself, only for the association to later sacrifice his soul to perfect it. When Lu Chen asked if he therefore knew its weaknesses, Roger admitted he didn't, but did know it was locked in the final room, and that reaching it required destroying 3 soul-sealing nails, though doing so would also fully release the beast. A hidden area quest triggered on the spot. Destroy the 3 soul-sealing nails and kill the strongest hound, currently at 0 of 3 progress, with rewards listed as 50 Blackstone City reputation, increased Hunter Association attention, and an unknown reward. Lu Chen's eyes lit up at the reputation alone. This quest was worth doing, and he asked where the nails were. Roger raised a hand, lighting 3 blood-red points in Lu Chen's vision and naming their locations as the East Side Kennel, the West Side Skinning Room, and the deepest point at the Beastbone Altar, before vanishing entirely as his voice trailed off. Lu Chen looked toward the East Kennel and activated Gale Step, noting that his prey mark had 7 minutes and 42 seconds remaining, and deciding that was plenty of time. Stepping into the kennel, he found it packed with iron cages, crimson eyes glowing behind every bar, and at its center, a black iron nail driven into the ground beside a monster 3 times the size of an ordinary hound rising slowly to its feet. A level 15 soul-sealing hound guard, a rare elite with 50,000 GP and skills including pack command, shadow-locking bite, and soul-sealing protection. Lu Chen balked slightly at the HP total, but the moment passed as every cage in the room sprang open at once and over 100 hounds poured out while the guard roared skyward, activating pack command to boost the entire pack's attack speed. A sight dense enough to make Lu Chen shudder and wonder if this counted as soloing a whole dungeon, but he clicked his tongue and pushed forward anyway, casting Shadow Bloodmark and unleashing Storm Arrow Rain as the falling arrows dropped hound after hound, the mark leaping through the pack like a plague and each kill refunding the Arrow Rain's cooldown. Rather than sniping individually, he simply scoured the ground with Arrow Rain given the sheer numbers, reserving Shadow Strike Arrow for elites that got close, while more than 20 beast traps and hunting nets pinned down the soul-sealing hound guard and kept it from closing the distance. 3 minutes later, all 100+ hounds lay dead, and the guard itself fell to Lu Chen's final arrow through its skull. Successfully killed for 6,000 exp, infinite soul-sealing hound fang, infinite hound guard soul bone, and a level up to 13 that brought a year of lifespan, 1 point in every attribute, 5 free attribute points, and 3 skill points, all of which he poured straight into agility for a total gain of 5. He walked up to the first soul-sealing nail and shattered it with an arrow, registering one of 3 destroyed as the entire underground beast cage shuddered violently, and without pausing he rushed straight to the west side skinning room. There, no pack of hounds awaited him, only rows of animal hides hanging from iron hooks and 18 level 15 skinning shadow beasts, rare monsters possessing camouflage, stealth-breaking resistance, and a bleeding tear trait. Stealth monsters. Lu Chen mused with interest, grateful he'd stocked up on the right materials beforehand, and scattered low-grade stealth-breaking powder that revealed all 18 at once before he cleared them with a single storm arrow rain for 2. 600 exp and infinite shadow beast hide and skinning venom sac. The room's guard turned out to be a merely half-human, half-beast shadow monster that Lu Chen dispatched in one clean combo of Shadow Bloodmark, a concussive arrow stun, a weakness-hitting Shadow Strike arrow, and a mirror shadow pursuit trigger, successfully killing the level 15 skinning room guard, another rare elite, for 6,500 exp and a rare-grade shadow beast cloak that instantly went infinite, marking the second soul-sealing nail destroyed. Delighted at the rare cloak, Lu Chen checked its stats. Level 13 requirement, plus 35 agility, plus 20 spirit, plus 5% dodge rate, and an additional effect giving an 8% chance on receiving a ranged attack to enter a brief phantom state, cutting that damage by half. Good enough to equip on the spot, filling his cloak slot at last, though he noted his shoes, bracers, and belt were still empty. His main weapon, offhand, leather armor, ring, badge, and cloak were all solid now, though not yet a complete set. He figured that once he cleared the underground beast cage and gathered the rest of the hunting ground equipment for a full body plus 10 reinforcement, walking the streets would leave everyone else stunned. Recovering himself, Lu Chen decided to handle the final soul-sealing nail, activating Gale Step and charging toward the beast bone altar at the deepest point of the underground beast cage. As he approached, he found an altar piled high with beast bones, the third soul-sealing nail driven into a huge, still-beating tumor at its center, and beside it a giant, hairless hound. Identified as a level 1 rare-grade boss with 85,000 GP and skills including Flesh Slaughter, Shadow Devour, Beast Bone Regeneration, and Frenzied Tear. Rare and boss-classed, Lu Chen decided there was nothing to do but engage, and the Hairless Hound King struck first, though Lu Chen was no slower, keeping the random teleportation scroll ready at all times, since tanking the king's damage head-on was never an option. He unleashed a full skill rotation. Shadow Strike, Arrow, Mirror Shadow Pursuit, Blood Mirror Strike, Storm Arrow Rain, stripping a third of the boss's health in one go, and having already calculated his cooldowns, chained straight into a second rotation without any gap. The Hairless Hound King roared, and its flesh began regenerating rapidly as Beast Bone Regeneration activated, healing 2% of its HP every second, a mechanic Lu Chen had never encountered before, prompting him to smear his newly infinite skinning venom sac onto plain arrows, treating it as a kind of trap capable of altering arrow properties, and crafting an infinite stock of rare-grade poison burst arrows on the spot. 3 of these detonated in a burst of poisonous fog, pushing the boss into a corrosive venom state that cut its healing effectiveness by 70% and completely disrupted its regeneration rhythm. And 2 minutes later, a final Shadow Strike arrow pierced its heart, successfully killing the level 1 rare grade boss for 18,000 XP, 30 Blackstone City reputation, an infinite Hairless Hound King heart, infinite Beast Bone battle boots, infinite Hunting Ground belt, and an infinite skill book of Shadow Hunting step, alongside a level up to 14 that granted a year of lifespan, 1 point in every attribute, 5 free points, and 3 skill points. All poured into agility once more for a gain of 5. Delighted to see his shoes, belt, and skill book all arrive at once, Liu Chen checked their stats. The Beast Bone battle boots required level 14 and offered plus 40 agility, plus 12% movement speed, and a 20% chance to become immune to a traps effect when stepping on one. The Hunting Ground belt, also level 14, gave plus 400 HP, plus 30 stamina, plus 10% inventory weight capacity, and boosted potion recovery effects by 10%. And the Shadow Hunting Step skill book, once learned, granted a short burst of high-speed movement along with bonus weak point damage on the next attack. After a few minutes of cramming his infinite skill books, Shadow Hunting Step reached level 10, boosting movement speed by 80% for 12 seconds and adding 200% physical damage to the next weak point attack, with a level 10 trait refreshing 30% of the skill's cooldown on a kill. Liu Chen equipped the boots and belt, feeling his overall attributes climb again, but with no time to review his full status, he pressed on to the last nail, raising his bow and shattering the third soul-sealing nail. Registering 3 of 3 destroyed, completing the first stage of the Beast Cage Heart Hidden Area quest, earning 50 Blackstone City reputation and increased Hunter Association attention, and unlocking the final room. The tumor at the altar center split open entirely, and moments later a door materialized out of thin air, standing open before him. Through it, from atop the altar, Liu Chen could see the Hound waiting inside. A level 1 area core boss with 120,000 GP and traits including Immovable, Summon Beast Horde, Devour Shadow, and Flesh Regeneration. Recognizing it as a stationary boss sealed its fate in his mind, and Liu Chen laid barrier scrolls all around to hold off the summoned Beast Horde while filling the passage entrance with traps, wiping out every summoned hound with traps and arrow rain before it could even reach the altar. Free from any distraction, he stood at a safe distance and poured out damage at leisure, boasting that his advantage wasn't just high damage but extremely high damage, first using poison burst arrows to suppress its regeneration, then shadow strike arrows to hit its core weak point, and armor-piercing arrows to break its defense, grinding the strongest hound down until it had nothing left. 5 minutes later, its HP hit 0, and every iron cage throughout the underground beast cage shattered at once, successfully killing the level 1 area core boss for 35,000 XP, 50 Blackstone City reputation, 100 Hunter Association reputation, a special item called the Soul Hunting Mark, infinite rare grade beast cage bracers, and an infinite excellent grade material called Beast Cage Core, along with a level up to 15 bringing another year of lifespan. Another point in every attribute, 5 free points, and 3 skill points, again all funneled into agility for a gain of 5. The Beast Cage Core in particular thrilled him, being his first excellent grade resource ever, described as the core remnant of the underground beast cage usable in forging Hunter Series equipment, Trap Series equipment, or special pet beast items. Infinite quantities of it felt like a massive windfall, especially with materials tailored specifically to his own class equipment and potential future pet beast crafting. As for the Soul Hunting Mark, bound to Night God, it recorded that killing elite-grade monsters and above would accumulate soul hunting stacks, currently at 0, with every 100 stacks temporarily enhancing a Blood Shadow Hunter skill, and every 1,000 stacks permanently increasing weak point damage by 1%. Liu Chen's breath caught slightly at the thought of permanently increased weak point damage, a genuine growth-type resource, unlike the experience and materials everyone else got from killing monsters. Since from now on every elite or rare kill would stack his soul hunting further, meaning every monster he farmed raised his late-game ceiling a little more. Convinced this was the dungeon's core reward, and that its brutal difficulty had been worth it, he equipped his newly dropped Beast Cage bracers. Level 15 requirement, plus 45 physical attack, plus 25 agility, plus 15% trap damage, and a bonus 20% increase to trap placement speed, filling yet another equipment slot. His gear now stood at the Mirror Bloodhunter Bow, Blood Mirror Quiver, Insect King leather armor, mirror lake ring, hunter badge, shadow beast cloak, beast bone boots, hunting ground belt, and beast cage bracers. Not a complete set, but his main equipment was largely in place, and he decided it was time to reinforce everything using his rare-grade equipment reinforcement stones, capped at +10 for now. He pushed the Shadow Beast Cloak to +10, boosting its Phantom State trigger to 20% and damage reduction to 70%. The Beast Bone Boots to +10, greatly increasing movement speed and raising trap immunity to 45%. The Hunting Ground Belt to +10, boosting its HP bonus and raising potion recovery to 25%, and the Beast Cage Bracers to +10, pushing trap damage to 35% and placement speed to 50%, before finishing off the Insect King leather armor, mirror lake ring, and hunter badge to +10 as well. The light effects across his body shifted entirely. Blood silver, deep blue, and dark red intertwining into a striking display, with the bow and quiver in particular looking like a blood-dripping ruby when drawn. Opening his panel afterward, Lu Chen found himself listed as nickname Night God. Level 15, Class Blood Shadow Hunter, lifespan 236 years, Blackstone City reputation 260, Hunter Association reputation 100, HP 2680, 2680ths, MP 1280, 1280ths, physical attack 720, agility 318, critical rate 58%, weak point damage bonus 50%, movement speed rated extremely fast, and his main equipment listed as fully reinforced to +10. He couldn't help smiling at the sight. This was only his second day in Blackstone City, and he was already level 15 with every piece of rare grade main gear at +10, plus an infinite stock of excellent grade materials and the growth type soul hunting mark. Probably no one could challenge his position as Blue Star's #1 anymore. Deciding it was time to head back to the city, he glanced at the collapsing tunnel of the underground beast cage and used an intermediate return scroll, vanishing in a flash of white light 5 seconds later. As he left, an announcement rang out across the northwest of Blackstone City, declaring that Night God had successfully cleared the abandoned hunting ground's hidden area, the underground beast cage, that the region's danger level had decreased, that the Hunter Association's reputation system had been unlocked, and that Night God now topped the city's regional contribution leaderboard. Inside the city, the recently arrived Chinese players froze in place at the announcement, the whole city falling silent for a beat as murmurs spread. Hadn't he just completed his first-class transfer yesterday and already cleared a hidden area? And what was this underground beast cage anyway? Nobody had even dared enter the abandoned hunting ground yet. Was this even the same version of the game everyone else was playing? Meanwhile, Lu Chen had already returned to the city and checked his newly refreshed Hunter Association reputation interface, now standing at 100 points with permission to enter the association's first-floor shop, and smiled at the thought of a new shop to browse. Returning to the northwest teleportation point, he was met by the Blackstone City Regional Contribution Leaderboard. Night God first with a contribution value of 12,600, Balu a distant second at 740, and Taishan third at 520. A gap so enormous that anyone glancing at it felt their scalp go numb, with players muttering about what he could possibly have done in the abandoned hunting ground. One admitting they'd accidentally unlocked the area themselves and seen its level 12. 15 rating. Another recounting nearly getting killed, farming a wild monster just outside the gate, and someone wondering aloud if this was the terrifying suppression force of a special first advancement. As the crowd stood in shock, someone spotted a figure walking down the main street glowing with light. Was that a paladin? Someone asked, only for another to correct them that it was Night God. His equipment light so dazzling, it had to be at least +5 reinforcement, prompting a wave of disbelief as onlookers realized it was full-body reinforcement. Unthinkable when most players hadn't even assembled a single elite-grade piece and had only managed a handful of reinforcement stones total since leveling. Was Night God somehow getting them for free? At the current stage, even a +2 piece was considered popular on the trading post, and here he was strolling by fully reinforced to +10, leaving the crowd gasping in disbelief. Unbothered by any of it, Lu Chen walked straight to the Hunter Association, located on the city's west side in a dark wood hall half embedded into the mountain wall. A huge beast bone bow hanging over the entrance and air-dried beast heads mounted on the walls. Several NPC hunters stood outside, and a one-eyed old man approached to confirm he was the descendant who'd cleared the heart of the beast cage. Lu Chen nodded. and the old hunter looked him over approvingly, praising his level 15 Blood Shadow Hunter status and his clean kill of the Hound King without misdirected damage. His evaluation of Lu Chen rose on the spot, granting 50 Hunter Association reputation before Lu Chen had even stepped through the door, bringing his total to 150. A genuinely impressive head start. The old hunter pushed open the heavy doors and told him to go in, that he now qualified for the second floor shop, and that the president wanted to see him. Hunter Association authority increased, unlocking the second floor. Lu Chen smiled at not having even browsed the first floor before the second unlocked itself, a clear sign of what reputation and contribution could buy. Ordinary players still fretting over 10 reputation points while he was already unlocking association-wide permissions. Inside the hall, a group of NPC hunters drinking wine and cleaning their bows all turned their gazes on him as he entered, murmuring about the descendant who'd cleared the underground beast cage and remarking on his bow, one recalling how long it had been since he'd last seen a blood shadow hunter. Lu Chen walked to the shop counter, where a short-haired female hunter's demeanor turned instantly respectful at the sight of his badge and reputation, informing him he could now purchase first and second floor authorized goods. Opening the merchandise list, the first item caught his eye immediately. A rare-grade soul-hunting potion, priced at 10 Hunter Association reputation and 50 gold coins, granting an extra 20% soul-hunting stacks on elite-grade kills or above for 30 minutes. He bought it at once, and it turned infinite in his backpack. Delighted that his freshly acquired soul-hunting mark now had a matching consumable that others would treat as a temporary buff, but that he could farm permanently. Next came a rare-grade advanced beast trap blueprint, priced at 15 reputation and 100 gold coins, letting him craft advanced beast traps after learning it. He bought and learned it immediately, crafting one on the spot from beast cage chains, soul-sealing dog fangs, and black-veined iron ore, delighted at the result before moving on to the next items. The fifth item on the list was a special grade Hunter Association pass, priced at 30 Hunter Association reputation and 500 gold coins, granting entry to exclusive hunter areas around Blackstone City. A clear win, Lu Chen reasoned, since access to exclusive areas meant more hidden information and goods, so he bought it without hesitation, the pass entering his backpack as a temporary, non-copyable identity permission item. Turning his attention to the far smaller but far more valuable second-floor shop, his eyes lit up at a soul-locking beast trap array enhancement scroll of excellent grade, priced at 50 reputation and 1 purple gold coin, capable of upgrading a rare-grade trap blueprint to excellent grade. Perfectly timed, since he'd just learned the rare-grade soul-locking beast trap array, so he bought and immediately used it, upgrading the array into a soul-locking hunting cage array of excellent grade that set up a trap zone, reducing target movement speed and dodge rate while continuously inflicting soul-hunting damage, with bonus effectiveness against beasts, wraiths, and shadow-type targets. Lu Chen's eyes burned at the upgrade. His trap system had jumped a full tier, from single-target traps and nets to a proper crowd control array, and he began plotting how his combat style would shift accordingly. Laying the array before any boss fight, so that anything caught inside would lose speed and dodge while bleeding continuously, pairing perfectly with his weak point hunting and eliminating the need to keep randomly teleporting away every time. Moving to the next item, a soul-hunting arrow seed of excellent grade priced at 50 reputation and 1 purple gold coin, which once planted into a quiver gave arrows a chance to deal bonus soul-hunting damage. Lu Chen checked his remaining reputation and found it running low after his shopping spree. Though he still had 260 Blackstone City reputation on hand, and the short-haired female hunter mentioned he could exchange it for Hunter Association reputation at a 2-to-1 ratio. Surprised such an option existed, he exchanged 200 Blackstone City reputation for 100 Hunter Association reputation, bringing his totals to 60 and 115 respectively, and bought the soul-hunting arrow seed without further hesitation, watching it too turn infinite before planting it directly into his blood mirror quiver, which gained a new effect. A 35% chance on a weak point hit to trigger bonus soul-hunting damage equal to 150% of physical attack. Its trigger rate boosted further because the quiver was already reinforced to +10. A very nice addition, he thought, especially since it tied directly into the weak point system his entire class revolved around, effectively adding another layer to his core damage output. The final second-floor item was a special grade Hunter Association recommendation letter priced at 100 reputation, which allowed him to register as a special contributor at the Blackstone City Lord's Mansion and unlock higher-tier regional quests. a steep price that felt close to daylight robbery, but tempting enough that Lu Chen gritted his teeth and bought it anyway, reasoning that reputation could always be earned back while missed resources from being beaten to the punch could not, leaving his Hunter Association reputation at just 15. Just as he finished, the short-haired hunter informed him the president was waiting on the third floor to meet him, and Lu Chen agreed to head up. There, a huge map of the hunting grounds around Blackstone City hung on the wall, and before it stood a tall, white-haired old man carrying a huge black bow on his back, identified as Blackstone City Hunter Association President Grayson. Without turning around, Grayson greeted him by name, thanking him for dealing with the hound dogs and explaining that the association had once tried to cultivate a batch of hounds capable of resisting an abyss beast tide, only for the beast cage to spiral out of control. The hounds tearing at everything in a frenzy, devouring not just people, but souls, until the place became a festering wound on Blackstone City that Lu Chen had finally cut away. Grayson's favorability toward him rose, granting another 100 Hunter Association reputation, which stung Lu Chen with a bittersweet pang given how much he'd just spent, though he was pleased it had come back so quickly. Grayson then turned and handed him a black badge, the Hunter Association title of Beast Cage Cleaner, offering a 10% discount on Hunter Association purchases and a 10% damage bonus against Hound type, Beast Cage type, and Wraith Hunter type targets, prompting Lu Chen to curse under his breath at having missed the discount by shopping before meeting the president, a genuine loss he lamented not foreseeing. Grayson continued, explaining that by Hunter Association custom Lu Chen could claim a special reward of equipment, skill, or information, his choice of one from three. And when Lu Chen asked about the information option, admiration flickered across Grayson's eyes as he pointed north on the map, describing a sunken ancient forest where traces of an excellent grade boss had recently appeared, not yet fully awakened, but liable to trigger a small-scale beast tide within 3 days if left unaddressed. Intelligence flashed before Lu Chen's eyes about an epic-grade boss in the sunken ancient forest, recommended for levels 18 to 20 and requiring either 100 Blackstone City reputation or a Hunter Association recommendation letter to access. And with a 3-day countdown attached, he was certain this had to be the next stage of the main storyline. Grayson noted he was still too low level and would be better off waiting until level 18, and Lu Chen agreed, reasoning he wasn't far off at his current level 15, especially with other areas of Blackstone City still left to explore beyond the now-cleared underground beast cage. And more importantly, with his newly acquired soul-hunting potion, soul-hunting arrow seeds, and epic-grade trap array, he badly needed a large volume of monsters to stack soul-hunting. Grayson spoke again, asking whether Lu Chen, since he'd killed the strongest hound and likely still carried the aura of the beast cage core, would be willing to hand over that core in exchange for an advanced forging commission from the association. Lu Chen's eyes lit up at the offer, since relying purely on drops without proper forging wasn't going to cut it as he pushed deeper into the main city. And besides, with an infinite backpack, sparing 1 or 2 beast cage cores cost him nothing. He agreed immediately, handing over an epic-grade beast cage core, which made Grayson's eyes widen considerably as he unlocked the Hunter Association's advanced forging commission, offering weapon, armor, accessories, or trap core as selectable parts. Lu Chen chose weapon without hesitation, reasoning his current rare grade +10 mirror bloodhunter bow, though still strong, could stand to be replaced to keep pace with his level and the growing intensity of the wilds ahead. Grayson asked for the weapon, explaining forging would take a full day and that Lu Chen could return tomorrow to collect it, a timeline Lu Chen balked at, unwilling to sit idle that long, and he asked whether there was a way to expedite it. Grayson warned the price would be steep, doubting Lu Chen could afford it, and named the terms: 10 purple gold coins plus 3 epic-grade materials for immediate forging. Lu Chen did the mental math. 1 purple gold coin equaled 1,000 gold coins, 1 gold coin equaled 100 silver coins, meaning 10 purple gold coins alone came to a full 100,000 silver coins. But with money no object. He agreed anyway, grumbling under his breath as he paid the 10 purple gold coins and handed over 3 more epic-grade beast cage cores, his infinite backpack keeping the resource count steady regardless. Grayson stared at him, stunned speechless. It was one thing for the city's current standout to have money, but pulling out 3 additional beast cage cores on top of the first, meaning he apparently held 4 in total, left Grayson quietly wondering whether he'd really put that many cores into the strongest hound in the first place. Snapping out of it at Lu Chen's prompting, He confirmed nothing was wrong with the materials and hurried off to the forging room at the back of the 3rd floor. 10 minutes later, a bowstring's vibration rang out through the entire Hunter Association, drawing curious NPCs' attention in the lobby as they speculated about the sound. Correctly guessing it must be the man who'd gone upstairs, since no one else could make the 3rd floor ring like that. Grayson soon emerged holding a black and red longbow, its body resembling beast bone and its string like a solidified line of blood. An epic-grade weapon, the Beast Cage soul-hunting bow, which entered Liu Chen's infinite backpack and immediately turned infinite in quantity. Liu Chen's eyes burned with excitement at the sight. Its stats read level 15 requirement, plus 260 physical attack, plus 80 agility, plus 20% critical rate, plus 25% weakness damage, with 3 additional effects. Soul-hunting arrow shadow, generating an extra shadow arrow on a weak point hit. Beast Cage suppression, boosting damage by 30% against targets affected by traps, formations, slow, or imprisonment. And Soul Cage harvest, granting bonus soul hunting stacks on kills of fine grade or above. He equipped it at once, feeling his aura surge. His old mirror bloodhunter bow had been strong, but the gap the epic grade weapon opened up was immediate and obvious, and it meshed perfectly with his soul hunting mark and trap system. Though unfortunately, the new bow didn't retain his old weapon's enhancement count, meaning he'd need to start over. He pulled out a rare-grade equipment enhancement stone and began reinforcing. The first attempt succeeded to +1. The second failed with the original count preserved. Further attempts brought it to +2 and then +3. At which point, a notice informed him the weapon had hit its enhancement cap for rare-grade stones and would need epic-grade stones to go further. Surprised that epic-grade weapons capped at +3 with rare stones, he shrugged and asked Grayson where to buy epic-grade enhancement stones. And Grayson pointed him to the 3rd floor shop, noting it would cost Hunter Association reputation and purple gold coins. Sure enough, Liu Chen found the epic-grade equipment enhancement stone listed there for 20 reputation and 1 purple gold coin, bought one on the spot, watched it turn infinite, and continued enhancing. +4, and onward all the way to +10, hitting the current stage's enhancement limit. The fully reinforced Beast Cage soul-hunting bow now boasted +420 physical attack, +140 agility, +30% critical rate, +45% weakness damage, a guaranteed soul-hunting arrow shadow trigger on weak point hits, a Beast Cage suppression bonus raised to 50% against controlled targets, and a Soul Cage harvest bonus increasing extra stacks by 50%. His output nearly doubled from before, the weapon's light effect now brighter and more explosive than the old mirror bloodhunter bow ever managed. Coming back to himself, Liu Chen asked Grayson about good places to grind monsters nearby, and Grayson pointed west to the Blackstone Rift, describing a large population of level 15 to 18 rift-armored beetles and stone-skinned lizards well suited to him. Thanking him, Liu Chen headed downstairs, carrying his freshly forged epic-grade +10 longbow through a crowd that gasped in disbelief at seeing an epic-grade weapon already maxed to +10 fresh out of the forge. At the same time, the Blackstone City equipment leaderboard refreshed, listing Night God's Beast Cage soul-hunting bow at epic-grade +10 in first place, his Blood Mirror quiver at rare-grade +10 in second, his Mirror Bloodhunter bow at rare-grade +10 in third, his Shadow Beast cloak at rare-grade +10 in fourth, and his Beastbone battle boots at rare grade +10 in 5th. The entire top 5 belonging to a single player, sending Blackstone City into an uproar as players marveled that the leaderboard had become his personal equipment showcase. Admitting they hadn't even seen a rare grade piece yet, while he'd already smashed an epic grade weapon to +10, and someone swallowed hard, murmuring in a trembling voice that Night God truly lived up to his reputation. Meanwhile, Liu Chen had already walked out through the city gate, eating flaming savage beef skewers to replenish his stamina, and, his mouth having gone dry, washed it down with a gale potion and an eagle eye potion, remarking with satisfaction on the marvelous refreshing sensation. Like Sprite and cola mixed together, he thought, before heading off to grind monsters. The Blackstone Rift sat on the western side of Blackstone City, the earth split open, as if by a giant axe with fissures crisscrossing everywhere. Fist-sized insect eggs crawling across the black rock walls, and occasionally a huge beetle drilled its way out of a crevice, its shell scraping against stone with a teeth-gritting sound. A notice confirmed Liu Chen had entered the Blackstone Rift, recommended for levels 15 to 18. noting dense monster populations, relatively high defense among them, and ground fissure traps scattered throughout. Dense monsters. Lu Chen thought gleefully, laughing at his own luck as he stepped inside and threw out the soul-locking hunting cage array. Black-red light patterns spreading across the rift floor and enveloping a wide area ahead, immediately drawing out a dozen or so rift beetles alarmed by the array's presence. Level 15 fine monsters with 12,000 GP, 520 physical defense, and traits including thick armor, burrowing, and gregarious behavior. Where ordinary players found this kind of monster maddening. High defense, overwhelming numbers, and a tendency to encircle anyone unlucky enough to get caught, forcing either death or a desperate town portal escape. Lu Chen was thrilled, pulling back the beast cage soul-hunting bow, its low vibration humming as he cast Shadow Bloodmark to put the beetles into the Shadow Blood state before unleashing Storm Arrow Rain. Blood-silver arrows falling in a torrent that pinned beetle after beetle the moment they emerged from the ground, triggering weakness hits, soul-hunting arrow shadow procs, shadow, blood damage, and soul cage harvest effects that stacked his soul-hunting count by 2 per kill, with his soul-hunting potion adding 1 more on top of each. One beetle after another fell as the Shadow Bloodmark leapt from target to target. A single wave of arrow rain clearing an entire section of the rift floor and netting 800x along with infinite rift beetle shell and infinite rift beetle whiskers per kill. Lu Chen grinned at the efficiency. Killing monsters used to mean exp and drops, but now it meant soul-hunting stacks, and rising stacks meant permanently increasing weak point damage. A true snowball, where killing more made him stronger. Being stronger let him kill faster, and killing faster let him kill even more. A virtuous cycle, he laughed to himself, before activating Shadow Hunting Step, far faster than Gale Step, and rushing straight into the rift's depths, clearing waves of wild monsters along the way with group attacks. Half an hour later, a golden light flashed across his body as he leveled up to 16, gaining a year of lifespan, 1 point in every attribute, 5 free attribute points, and 3 skill points. All funneled once more into agility, for another gain of 5. Leveling up didn't slow him down. He drank another bottle of soul-hunting potion, replenished his hunger with a string of Crimson Flame savage beef, keeping his hunger value maxed and his stamina recovery boosted, and pushed on deeper into the rift, where monster density only increased. Approaching a patch of blackstone forest, the ground began to tremble continuously, and a carriage-sized beetle burst up from underground. A level 17 rare elite called the Rift Broodmother, boasting 90,000 GP and skills including Insect, Swarm Summoning, Carapace Hardening, Fissure Impact, and Oviposition. Seeing Insect, Swarm Summoning, and Oviposition on the skill list delighted him even further, realizing it would essentially feed him soul-hunting stacks on its own, and as the Broodmother screeched and split open dozens of insect eggs beneath her body, spawning a wave of small rift beetles, Lu Chen wasted no time laying the soul-locking hunting cage array across the stone forest and unleashing Storm Arrow Rain, evaporating a chunk of the swarm in a flood of soul-hunting stack notifications. As the Broodmother kept laying eggs frantically, Lu Chen held off on finishing her, choosing instead to stand back and clear each new wave with arrow rain as it emerged. A wave produced, a wave cleared, again and again. His soul-hunting stacks climbing rapidly through 100, then 300, then 500 and beyond, until he noticed the Broodmother appeared to have run dry of eggs, at which point he decided she'd outlived her usefulness, and raised his beast cage soul-hunting bow to finish her off with Shadow Bloodmark, Shadow Hunting Step, and a weakness-hitting Shadow Strike arrow. The combined burst of soul-hunting arrow shadow, shadow blood damage, and weakness hunt triggers stiffening her massive body before emptying her health bar entirely, successfully killing the level 17 Rift Broodmother, a rare elite, for 25,000 XP. An infinite rare grade Rift Broodmother egg sac, an infinite rare grade Broodmother carapace, and a rare grade equipment drop called Rift Armor shoulder guards, along with a level up to 17 bringing yet another year of lifespan and the usual attribute rewards, all put into agility again. He checked the new shoulder guards. Level 17 requirement, plus 80 physical defense, plus 350 HP, plus 25 agility, and a 10% chance to rebound melee attacks back at the attacker. A solid piece that filled his shoulder slot, and he equipped and reinforced them to plus 10 on the spot, boosting the HP bonus further and raising the rebound chance to 25%. His full equipment now stood at Weapon Beast Cage, Soul Hunting Bow +10, Offhand Blood Mirror Quiver +10, Leather Armor Insect King, Leather Armor +10, Cloak Shadow Beast Cloak +10, Shoes Beast Bone Battle Boots +10, Belt Hunting Ground Belt +10, Bracers Beast Cage Bracers +10, Shoulder Guards Rift Armor Shoulder Guards +10, Ring Mirror Lake Ring +10, and Badge Hunter Badge +10. Still missing a helmet, leg guards, and necklace, but nearly complete, and he pressed on deeper into the rift. Back inside Blackstone City, the level leaderboard refreshed once more. Night God first at level 17, White Deer second at level 12, Taishan third at level 12, and Flame Young Master fourth at level 12. A gap that left players numb with disbelief, murmuring that he'd only just been level 15 a moment ago, wondering how much time had even passed, and joking bitterly that it felt like he was playing a cracked, unrestricted version of the game while everyone else suffered through the hard mode. A comment that silenced the crowd around them as they reflected on how far behind they already were, with every notable reward in Blackstone City seemingly already claimed by Night God. Deep in the Blackstone Rift, Lu Chen finally reached the core area. Lu Chen approached quietly as a level 18 Black Crystal Lizard, a rare monster with 38,000 GP and traits including Black Crystal Protection, Magic Resistance, and Crystal Tail Sweep, entered his range, and decided to specialize in catching them off guard. Deploying the soul-locking Hunting Cage Array for crowd control, Storm Arrow Rain for clearing groups, Shadow Strike Arrow for focused elimination, Poison Burst Arrow to break defense, and Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow to supplement damage. In a mere 20 minutes, the Black Crystal Lizards lay scattered across the ground, yielding infinite Black Crystal Scale, Stone Lizard Crystal Tail, and Black Crystal Blood, and pushing his soul hunting stacks to a full 1,000, which triggered the soul hunting mark and consumed the stacks for a permanent 1% increase to weakness damage. A small number on its own, he reflected, but permanent growth that would only compound the more monsters he farmed. Just as he prepared to push deeper, the ground began to shake and a crystal pillar at the center of the Black Crystal Stone Forest split open, releasing a black stone lizard over 10 meters long, a level 18 rare-grade boss called the Black Crystal Lizard King, boasting 180,000 GP and skills including Black Crystal Shield, Crystal Tail Fracture, Rift Tremor, and Crystal Swallowing Recovery. Surprised the boss had appeared so quickly, Lu Chen popped a few potions out of respect for the opponent as it roared and rapidly grew a thick layer of black crystal armor across its body, activating Black Crystal Shield to absorb 30,000 points of damage while cutting range damage taken by 20%. Impressively tanky, Lu Chen thought. Deploying the soul-locking Hunting Cage Array the moment the king stepped within range, sinking its massive limbs and slowing it while binding it in place. With the king under control, Lu Chen cast Shadow Bloodmark and fired a Poison Burst Arrow into its front limb joint, corroding its healing and defense, then followed with a burst arrow that cracked visible fissures across the shield. The king retaliated with Crystal Tail Fracture, shattering a section of its own tail into a hail of crystal fragments that Lu Chen partially blocked with Wind Guardian before using a random teleport scroll to pull away and resume his assault, shattering the shield entirely 2 seconds later. Seizing the opening, Lu Chen fired a Shadow Strike Arrow that slipped through a gap in the crystal armor and pierced the corner of the king's eye for a weakness hit of 32,800, followed by an 18,600 Shadow Bloodmark trigger and a 22,100 Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow trigger, dropping a massive chunk of its health and enraging it into slamming its limbs down for Rift Tremor, cracking the ground into fissures and spiking crystal shards upward. Lu Chen teleported clear just before 3 spikes pierced the spot he'd been standing on, grateful for his ample supply of scrolls. The king, missing its strike, instead bit into a nearby mineral pillar to trigger Crystal Swallowing Recovery, prompting Lu Chen to fire a Poison Burst Arrow into its torn mouth that cut the healing effect by 70% and stalled its recovery entirely, after which he unleashed Storm Arrow Rain across the king and surrounding pillars for a string of heavy hits including a 14,800 critical. The king struggles against the soul-locking Hunting Cage Array's chains, only amplifying the damage further through his Beast Cage suppression effect. Noting wryly that among all his current attack methods, this seemed to be the one with the most bonus effects stacked on it. 2 minutes later, the king's HP dropped below 30%, triggering a near-death berserk state that reset its shield cooldown and expanded its Rift Tremor range. And as the entire stone forest seemed to overturn around him, Lu Chen, genuinely alarmed, drew the beast cage soul-hunting bow into a full moon, its excellent grade +10 light effect erupting as a dark red soul-hunting arrow shadow condensed beside the bowstring, and declared that this arrow would send it on its way before loosing a shadow strike arrow. The arrow streaked toward the black crystal lizard king's already injured left eye as a blood-silver stream of light, landing a guaranteed critical weakness hit that triggered both Shadow Bloodmark and Soul-Hunting Arrow Shadow for a combined 76,800 damage, shattering the newly formed black crystal shield from the inside before it could even solidify. The king let out a low, unwilling roar as its massive body, more than 10 meters long, crashed to the ground. Successfully killed for 60,000 exp. 30 Blackstone City reputation, 30 Hunter Association reputation, a rare grade black crystal legards, a rare grade black crystal necklace, a rare grade black crystal lizard king heart, and a rare grade crystal eyelock skill book, alongside a level up to 18 that brought a year of lifespan and the usual attribute rewards. Liu Chen let out a long breath, reflecting that this had been the hardest boss he'd faced yet, and that without his many tools, it would have been genuinely difficult to solo. Checking the drops, he found the Black Crystal Legards required level 18 and offered plus 500 HP, plus 120 physical defense, plus 30 agility, and a 20% reduction to slow effect duration, while the Black Crystal Necklace, also level 18, gave plus 40 spirit, plus 5% critical hit rate, and mana restoration on weakness hits. Perfect timing, since both his neck and leg slots had been empty. He equipped both immediately and pushed each to plus 10 using superior strengthening stones, boosting the Legard's slow reduction to 50% and greatly enhancing the necklace's mana recovery effect, remarking that only a helmet remained to complete his core set. Finally, he examined the new Crystal Eyelock skill book, a rare grade ability that locked onto a target's weakness to increase hit rate temporarily, wondering whether stacking it to level 10 might guarantee a hit outright. After burning through a pile of copies to max its proficiency, it settled at greatly increasing weakness hit rate for 30 seconds with the first weakness attack guaranteed to critically strike. Not a full guarantee of hitting, he noted with a rueful smile, but explosive enough on that first hit to be well worth it. Right then, a system prompt announced that having reached level 18 and holding a Hunter Association recommendation letter, he'd met the prerequisites to investigate the sunken ancient forest, unlocking the hidden area quest with a superior tier boss awakening countdown of 2 days and 21 hours remaining, warning that failure would unleash a small beast tide on Blackstone City. Liu Chen looked north toward the silhouette of a forest wrapped in black fog, the sunken ancient forest. Liu Chen recognized this clearly as a main story level quest for Blackstone City. If left unchecked, whatever lurked in the sunken ancient forest would fully awaken in 2 days and 21 hours and trigger a small-scale beast tide affecting the whole city. After some thought, he decided there was no need to rush over right away. Though he was already level 18 with equipment, skills, and potions far exceeding others at his level, he'd been continuously clearing dungeons without pause and needed to get his affairs in order. Most importantly, filling the last gap in his equipment, a helmet, since he had no idea what a black fog region like the sunken ancient forest held in store, and judging by the failure penalty alone, its boss had to be formidable. If he ended up injured or dead there was no telling how much lifespan he might lose. With that in mind, he took out an intermediate town recall scroll and returned to Blackstone City in a flash of white light. Inside the city, player numbers had grown slightly since the day before, most still ranging between level 10 and 13, with level 14 or 15 considered first tier. Level 18 belonged to Liu Chen alone, and he was easy to spot given how explosive his special effects were. He quickly made his way to the blacksmith shop, a space far larger than the one in the novice village, its furnace rolling like molten lava and high-tier weapons hanging on every wall, where a shirtless, muscular blacksmith identified as Senior Blacksmith Agu of Blackstone City stood forging iron with a level listed only as unknown. The moment Agu spotted the longbow on Liu Chen's back, his pupils constricted slightly, praising it as an impressive, excellent-grade Beast Cage series longbow already reinforced to the current stage's limit. And upon noticing the rest of Liu Chen's fully plus 10 reinforced gear, he remarked that this descender was a bit outrageous. Without wasting words, Liu Chen laid out his best materials: black crystal scale, stone lizard crystal core, insect king carapace, beast cage core, and a few rare ores he had given him earlier, and asked whether Agu could forge a helmet. prompting the blacksmith's hands to tremble with excitement at seeing excellent-grade core material used for something so modest. He questioned whether Lu Chen understood such material could serve as a weapon's main component, and upon confirming Lu Chen still wanted a helmet anyway. Privately marveled at what seemed like an extravagant waste, akin to making electrical wire out of gold, pressed for a straight answer on whether he could do it. Agu confirmed he could, explaining that the Black Crystal series leaned toward defense, resistance, and mental stability, while the Beast Cage core would provide suppression and perception, making for a helmet well-suited to hunter-class professions if the forging succeeded. Though the failure rate wasn't low, Lu Chen shrugged it off, saying he had plenty of materials to spare, leaving Agu quietly astonished at such overbearing extravagance before agreeing to take the materials, lighting the furnace, and feeding in Black Crystal Scale, Stone Lizard Crystal Core, Insect King Carapace, Beast Cage Core, and 5 purple gold coins. The first attempt failed. Before Agu could even speak, Lu Chen had already handed over a second set of materials. That attempt failed too. But on the third try, the furnace fire surged and a black and red hunter crown slowly took shape within the flames, successfully forging an excellent-grade Black Crystal Hunter crown that immediately turned infinite in his backpack. Checking its stats, Lu Chen found it required level 18 and offered plus 800 HP, plus 120 spirit, plus 60 agility, plus 20% weakness perception range, plus 30% mental type negative effect resistance, along with 3 additional effects. Reduced duration on fear, confusion, or hallucination effects, easier detection of weaknesses, traps, and disguised units, and a chance to briefly suppress beast-type targets at or below his own level. Delighted that his full equipment slots were now complete, he reinforced the helmet to plus 10 using excellent-grade stones, boosting its stats significantly and upgrading each additional effect, reaching direct immunity chances against mental status effects, faster weakness locking, and stronger beast suppression. And the moment he put it on, the world around him sharpened noticeably, revealing faint traces of equipment auras, NPC auras, and even probing gazes he hadn't noticed before, a clear sign of upgraded perception. Agu, looking over Lu Chen's fully plus 10 reinforced set, couldn't help joking about whether he planned to go fight the city lord, and Lu Chen smiled at the remark before turning to leave the blacksmith shop. Just then a friend request popped up. From Bailu, the special support first transfer player he recognized from both the class advancement and level leaderboards, ranked near the front on the ladder. Curious why she'd reached out, he accepted, and Bailu wasted no time getting to the point, asking whether he wanted in on a gig. When Lu Chen asked her to explain, she revealed she'd found a hidden dungeon that might contain lifespan items. A claim that immediately caught his interest, since even with his steady 60-year daily gain, more lifespan was never something to pass up. Lu Chen asked Bailu if she was sure about the dungeon, and rather than explain, she simply sent him the details directly. A hidden-type dungeon called the Courtyard, recommended for 2 to 4 people, rated extremely high in difficulty, with rewards listed as a withered wood staff, a plasma bayonet, and an unnamed lifespan prop. The information was sparse, but Lu Chen noted that the reward column genuinely mentioned a lifespan item, and once he confirmed he believed her, she laid out her terms plainly. She alone held this dungeon's information, she'd guide him in, and they'd split the rewards 50-50. Lu Chen had half expected her to demand more, given how valuable her intelligence was, but was relieved she hadn't tried to overreach, and agreed to meet her at the blacksmith shop. She arrived shortly after, dressed in a white gold priestess gown and carrying a rattan staff. Her expression cool and aloof, but her features striking enough that Lu Chen found himself momentarily stunned, marveling that divine domain apparently had no facial customization system at all. This level of beauty was simply excessive. Snapping back to attention when she waved a hand in front of his face, he confirmed they'd leave right away, and Bailu produced half of a yellowed map depicting a courtyard ringed by dead trees, the withered spring courtyard remnant map, which, once unfolded, sent a beam of pale green light southeast of Blackstone City, revealing the hidden duo dungeon Withered Spring Courtyard, recommended for levels 13 to 17, with rewards including the Spring Longevity Peach and a Withered Spring Equipment series. Surprised the dungeon's recommended level was so modest for something he'd assumed would be brutally difficult. Lu Chen was quickly corrected by Bailu, who warned him not to get too relaxed. The dungeon wasn't purely about combat, but relied heavily on health loss mechanics, meaning insufficient healing could wear even a high-damage player down to death. When Lu Chen asked whether she could keep up, she lifted her chin proudly, reminding him she was a special support first transition player and not to be underestimated, then reached out to tap the back of his hand, blessing him with dear spirit blessing. Increased health recovery speed and delayed damage settlement during sustained hits. A skill Lu Chen found genuinely impressive, prompting Bai Lu to smile and fish for a compliment about not being weak despite only being level 13, which Lu Chen answered with a simple, "not bad," leaving her pouting at how ruthlessly unimpressed he seemed. As the two set off toward the city gate, players who spotted them together buzzed with speculation about the two leaderboard heavyweights teaming up. A special output first transition player and a special support first transition player. A lineup too luxurious to ignore, with everyone wondering what dungeon could possibly warrant Night God leaving the city in person. Once outside, Bai Lu quietly asked how much lifespan he currently had, and when he deflected by asking why she wanted to know, she admitted mere curiosity before conceding the obvious. Of course, the leaderboard's top lifespan holder had more than her. Then mused aloud that upon finding a lifespan item, one's first instinct shouldn't simply be to eat it. Pressed on what she meant, she confessed she'd been thinking that if such items could be stably produced, fewer people would need to fear death so much. Lu Chen dismissed the idea flatly as naive, explaining that divine domain would never let everyone live easily, that lifespan as the game's most precious currency could never realistically be mass-produced without collapsing the entire system, and that her sanctimonious idealism would get her killed quickly. A remark that had Bai Lu jabbing a finger at the back of his head in protest, insisting she wasn't being sanctimonious but genuinely wanted Hyuxia's overall strength to grow so they could hold their own against other regions. Lu Chen turned to consider her, privately acknowledging she'd likely already grasped that beyond the Blue Star civilization's involvement in the wider game, other civilizations existed too, and that Blue Star itself was already fractured into major regions, meaning the coming resource wars might well erupt between those regions first, though such concerns belonged to a later stage. Strength came first. Bai Lu then playfully asked him to cover her in the future and let her be his pendant, nearly making Lu Chen gag, and he flatly refused the offer before walking ahead, leaving her stamping her foot and vowing to show him her true prowess with healing so overwhelming he wouldn't want to leave. Soon the pair reached a dead forest with a half-collapsed wooden door at its center, behind which lay a courtyard shrouded in gray-white mist flanked by two stone tablets. Bai Lu's guidance map turned into pale blue light that merged into the tablets, activating the hidden dungeon and confirming the detected party members as Night God and Bai Lu, with a rule warning that life would continuously drain inside and a cryptic hint that withered wood does not die. Spring longevity is not born. The wooden door slowly opened, releasing a wind carrying the scent of decay and peach blossoms, and with Lu Chen gripping his bow and Bai Lu raising her staff beside him, promising not to let him drift too far from her healing, the two walked shoulder to shoulder into the withered spring courtyard. A prompt informed the pair that they were affected by the withered spring courtyard, draining 1% HP per second while increasing hunger depletion, though healing effects were boosted by 20%. A mechanic that visibly unsettled Bai Lu, who found a percentage-based drain disgusting rather than the flat value loss she'd expected, and even Lu Chen was mildly startled by how absurd it was. Undeterred, he calmly pulled out a skewer of blazing barbarian beef and started eating, restoring hunger and boosting stamina recovery, then chased it with a sip of what he'd nicknamed health soda, refilling his HP in chunks of 200. Thoroughly pleased with himself, he strolled through the courtyard eating as he went, leaving Bai Lu dumbfounded and scolding him for showing no respect to a hidden dungeon, to which he retorted that this was already plenty of respect given how brutal the drain was, since normally he'd never bother eating to sustain his HP bar mid-clear. Bai Lu was left speechless at how thoroughly unorthodox his approach was, especially watching him knock back health potions like soda. In truth, this was one of the most agonizing experiences of Lu Chen's life. Being forced to eat even past full just to survive was somehow worse than fighting monsters. As they walked, Bai Lu eyed the meat skewer in his hand and asked how much it cost, feigning indifference while clearly curious, and when Lu Chen handed her a full stack of 20 blazing barbarian beef skewers, 5 silver coins each, purchased cheap from the West Street night market. She was stunned to realize she was holding a full gold coin's worth of food. She took a bite anyway, and her eyes lit up before she quickly composed herself and downplayed how good it tasted, refusing to give the skewers back once Lu Chen jokingly asked for them. Just then, the sound of dead branches rubbing together echoed from deeper in the courtyard as fallen leaves swelled and vine-wrapped corpses crawled up from the soil. A dozen or so level 14 withered vine corpse servants, elite monsters with 9,000 GP and skills, including rot vine entanglement and life drain. Balu raised her staff on reflex, one hand still clutching her skewers, muttering something around a mouthful of food that Lu Chen couldn't quite make out, though he felt a warm current surge into him regardless. Deer Spirit Blessing, boosting his HP recovery, and Spring Breath restoring a trickle of health per second, largely canceling the courtyard's drain effect. Lu Chen drew his bow, cast Shadow Bloodmark on the first corpse servant, and fired an arrow through its brow for 18,420 weakness damage plus 7,210 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow and 6,900 from Shadow Blood damage. Massive overkill that shattered it instantly for 1,200 exp split evenly between the party and Infinite Withered Vine Root. The mark leapt to the second target as he unleashed Storm Arrow Rain across half the courtyard, wiping out the remaining corpse servants in a burst of damage, including an 11,060 critical hit. Though one lingering servant lunged at his wrist with Rot Vine Entanglement before Balu intervened with a Purify spell that snapped the vines apart, letting Lu Chen finish it off with an armor-piercing arrow for 12,680. Looking over the shattered vines and corpses, Balu remarked with mild disbelief on how excessive his damage seemed. And when Lu Chen shrugged it off as not bad, she pressed him on whether he genuinely thought casually one-shotting wild monsters for tens of thousands of damage counted as merely decent. Finally understanding why the leaderboard gap was so enormous and wondering who could possibly catch up, Lu Chen smiled without answering and moved on toward the second courtyard. A dried-up pond with a half-collapsed stone bridge over a bed of thick black mud, and the moment they approached, pale hands began reaching out of the muck, afflicting them with the withered mud grudge. Reduced movement speed and increased HP drain, which Balu dispelled with a quick purify, noting she could handle such negative statuses. Lu Chen approved. The mud then churned and 3 fully mud-covered monsters crawled out. Level 15 Withered Mud Show Corpses, rare monsters with 24,000 GP and skills, including Life Drain, Withered Mud Regeneration, and Rotten Mud Spit, prompting Balu to comment they looked like level 15 sushi, which Lu Chen dismissed with a jab about her constant preoccupation with food, drawing a mild protest from her. As the 3 monsters spat black mud simultaneously, Lu Chen didn't bother dodging, and instead threw down a low-level barrier scroll, absorbing the impact as the scroll's durability ticked down in large chunks, leaving Balu watching in disbelief and pointing out that each of those scrolls cost 30 gold coins. Was he really burning through them so casually? Balu could barely bring herself to watch anymore, wondering aloud just how much money Lu Chen actually had. Buying meat skewers on a whim, burning through scrolls like they were nothing. But when she pressed him on it, he simply shot back that this was exactly what barriers were for. Activating Crystal Eye Lock, he locked onto the still-beating black longevity mud core in the chest of the first withered mud longevity corpse, its weak point. Then used Shadow Hunting Step to close the distance in a blood-silver afterimage and fired a Shadow Strike arrow for a critical 22,480, followed by a Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow Trigger for 9,130, nearly 30,000 damage that one-shot the target instantly. The remaining 2 immediately activated Withered Mud Regeneration, recovering 2% HP per second, prompting Lu Chen to fire 3 rapid poison burst arrows that pushed them into the corrosive poison state, cutting healing by 70%. Balu seized the opening to land a Deer Spirit Purification for 3,200 damage, noting with a soft hum that supports had tempers too when Lu Chen remarked on her having output it all. He followed with a double shot dealing 8,420 and a critical 17,600 to drop the second corpse, and when the third tried retreating into the mud to recover, finished it with an armor-piercing arrow for 15,120, successfully clearing all 3 for 3. 500 exp split between the party and infinite quantities of withered mud longevity soil and corrupted spirit liquid. Materials that immediately caught Lu Chen's interest as potential ingredients for growing lifespan-type fruit, something worth experimenting with later. The 2 pressed on to the third courtyard, empty of monsters save for a half-withered, half-living peach tree, beneath which sat a woman in a ragged priestess robe, her hair snow-white but her skin as delicate as a young girl's, cradling a withered wood infant. Identified as the Withered Spring Priestess, a remnant soul on the verge of dissipating. Balu's expression shifted at the sight, recognizing her as the figure whose lingering thought she'd saved during her own first transition quest, and the priestess greeted Balu gently before turning her gaze to Lu Chen, pausing noticeably at the weight of soul-hunting aura she sensed on him, remarking that he had killed many things, to which Lu Chen replied flatly that they'd started it. The priestess fell silent a moment as Balu turned away, shoulders trembling with suppressed laughter, before the priestess looked down at the infant in her arms and explained that the withered spring courtyard had once been a longevity garden where a spring longevity peach bore fruit every 10 years, until someone sought to ripen the peaches early by watering the trees with the lifespans of living people, turning the spring peaches withered and the garden into a cage. A system prompt then presented the dungeon's final choice. Purify the withered spring peach tree for greater difficulty and reward, or forcibly harvest the spring longevity peach for lesser difficulty, reward, and a weakened peach effect. Balu turned to Lu Chen for a decision, and without hesitation, he chose purification, which she said she'd expected. The priestess then tapped the center of Balu's brow, granting her a temporary skill. Dear Spirit, Pure Spring Ritual. That would leave her unable to move or attack during the ritual, and asked Lu Chen to protect her from interruption. Balu planted her staff into the ground before the peach tree, spreading pale green light beneath her feet, and the courtyard shook violently as rotting fruit on the left half of the tree burst open, releasing black resentment shadows. 20 level 15 longevity stealing resentment shadows, rare monsters with 18,000 GP and skills including lifespan absorption, penetration, and ritual interruption, all lunging toward Balu at once. Unable to move, she looked up at Lu Chen and asked him to handle it, and he stepped in front of her with a simple acknowledgement, deploying the soul-locking hunting cage array, scattering advanced beast traps, and layering 3 tiers of low-level barrier scrolls around her. Protection so excessive that Balu remarked it seemed a bit much, though Lu Chen only told her not to get distracted as he drew his bow. The first wave of resentment shadows charged into the formation, their speed and evasion crippled, and storm arrow rain shattered a patch of them instantly, netting 3 soul-hunting stacks per kill and infinite longevity-stealing residual ash while pushing the ritual to 30% progress. A second wave crawled up from the ground, 5 of them sneaking behind Balu to strike directly, but Lu Chen's black crystal hunter crown flared with hunter crown vision, revealing the camouflaged targets, and he turned to fire 3 arrows that shattered 3 of them outright, while the remaining 2 crashed harmlessly into the barrier. Amid the fighting, Balu, still frozen in place, asked whether he usually protected teammates this way, and Lu Chen admitted he didn't usually have teammates at all, prompting her to ask, with a soft smile, whether she counted as his first. He confirmed she did, and she resolved to remember it. He finished off the last resentment shadow with an armor-piercing arrow, then layered 10 more barrier scrolls around her protection, telling her to focus on finishing the ritual, which drew a laugh from Balu at the sheer excess of his defenses. As the ritual reached 65% progress, a third and larger wave of resentment shadows emerged, this time accompanied by several oversized resentment souls. Level 1 rare elites with 50,000 GP and skills including Lifespan Scream, Life Rebound, and Ritual Pollution. A threat that would have overwhelmed most parties but left Lu Chen entirely unfazed as the 3 rare elites unleashed their screams simultaneously. A prompt announced that Lu Chen was affected by Lifespan Scream, draining an additional 2% HP per second while assaulting his mind, though his black crystal hunter crown flared with black crystal concentration, cutting the mental impact by 60%. Balu simultaneously boosted her healing, enhancing Dear Spirit Blessing's delayed damage ratio, and watched his health bar drop from 2,680 to 2,100 to 1,850 as sweat beaded on her forehead, urging him not to push too hard since she could heal him back. Only for Lu Chen to calmly drink 2 bottles of intermediate health potion, refilling his health bar completely and leaving Balu feeling her worry had been entirely unnecessary. He drew his bow, chained Crystal Eyelock, Shadow Bloodmark, and Shadow Hunting Step, and locked onto the chest weakness of the first lifespan-stealing Vengeful Spirit, firing a Shadow Strike arrow for a weakness critical of 39,800, followed by 16,600 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow and 14,100 from Shadow Blood damage, instantly erasing it. The second spirit rushed him and clawed at his chest for a mere 420 damage that barely registered, and he answered with a concussive arrow for 12,800 that triggered a stun, followed by an armor-piercing arrow for 22,100 that dropped it, while the third, attempting to reach Balu, was held back by the soul-locking hunting cage array before a storm arrow rain finished it off, completing the wave for a rare-grade lifespan-stealing soul core and pushing the ritual to 90% progress. Just as completion neared, the thickest withered branch on the peach tree's left side exploded, releasing a pitch-black, baby-like monster. A level 1 rare grade boss with 90,000 HP and skills, including Lifespan Scream, Life Backlash, Withered Spring Curse, and Ritual Interruption, prompting Balu to pale and announce the boss had arrived. The lifespan-stealing infant spirit immediately cast Withered Spring Curse on Balu, threatening to fail the ritual if not interrupted within 10 seconds. And since she couldn't move to defend herself, Lu Chen calmly judged 10 seconds more than enough. Unleashing every burst skill and potion at once, chaining Crystal Eye Lock, Shadow Hunting Step, and Shadow Blood Mark before pulling the Beast Cage Soul Hunting Bow to its limit and firing a Shadow Strike arrow that pierced the infant spirit's brow for a weakness critical of 45,800, followed by a guaranteed Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow Trigger for 20,600 and Shadow Blood damage for 16,200, dropping its HP to under 1/10 in a single arrow. As it shrieked and tried retreating into the tree, a second armor-piercing arrow for 19,800 exploded it into black ash. Balu could only stare in disbelief. A 90,000 HP boss killed in 2 arrows, exactly what she'd expect from the top of the leaderboard. As the kill yielded 40,000 exp, an infinite lifespan-stealing soul core, an infinite life delay skill book, and a level up to 19 with the usual attribute rewards. Moments later, the Deer Spirit Pure Spring ritual completed, and the peach tree trembled violently as its withered left half turned to ash while the right half burst into wild bloom, 2 pale golden spirit peaches slowly condensing on its branches. Spring longevity peaches. Balu, pale but smiling, called it a success, and Lu Chen walked forward to pluck one, examining its effect. 50 years of lifespan per consumption, capped at 5 uses per day. Enough at 250 years daily, though still less generous than he'd hoped. He ate one on the spot, watching his lifespan jump to 290 years, while Balu plucked and bit into the other, her eyes narrowing in satisfaction as her own lifespan rose by 50 years, calling it so sweet before catching Lu Chen watching her and asking what he was staring at. "Watching a monkey eat a peach," he replied, earning a stuck-out tongue in response. The remnant soul of the withered spring priestess rose beneath the tree, her eyes noticeably softer as she declared the courtyard finally purified, thanking Balu for bringing the right person and turning to thank Lu Chen directly as a blood shadow hunter for restoring the courtyard, offering her blessing as repayment. A speck of pink light drifted down from the peach tree and merged into Lu Chen's body, granting him the blessing breath of spring longevity, lasting 72 hours, reducing life drain, withered type, and lifespan erosion negative effects by 30%. With a note that it could also resist part of the black fog erosion in the sunken ancient forest. An unexpected bonus Lu Chen welcomed gladly, given he hadn't even entered that forest yet. The dungeon itself registered as perfectly purified, granting 50,000 exp, 30 Blackstone City reputation, and an infinite withered spring treasure chest, prompting Balu to sigh with satisfaction at their huge profit while privately crediting the win to Lu Chen, before announcing she'd head off and stay in touch for future opportunities. Lu Chen returned to Blackstone City via town return scroll, and simultaneously a regional announcement declared that Night God and Balu had perfectly purified the hidden dungeon Withered Spring Courtyard, unveiling the Spring Longevity Peach and unlocking the lifespan-type dungeon system, with Night God topping the dungeon contribution leaderboard and Balu topping the support contribution leaderboard, sending Blackstone City into a fresh wave of speculation about the strange wording of a perfect purification. While outside the withered forest, Balu listened to the announcement with reddening cheeks, wishing the system could phrase things a bit more normally. Lu Chen made his way back to Blackstone City as dusk settled in, magic crystal lamps flickering to life across streets busier than during the day, and concluded it was too late to head for the sunken ancient forest that evening, deciding to postpone until early the next morning. He returned to the Silver Deer Inn and rented a suite for the night, then pulled out the withered spring treasure chest he'd just earned, munching on spiritual peaches for their 50-year lifespan boosts as he opened it, revealing 3 rare-grade withered spring spirit dew, 5 rare-grade sinking wood antitoxin pills, and a rare-grade withered spring amulet requiring level 18, offering plus 300 HP, plus 50 spirit, and a modest 5% reduction to health drain type negative effects. Unimpressed by the stats, Lu Chen noted the chest clearly wasn't built for combat gear, mostly consumables and materials of limited use to him, and decided to open it once more, hoping for something better. The second attempt yielded a random class skill treasure chest of excellent grade, a rare drop within a drop that thrilled him given all his current skills were only rare grade, and he'd never once pulled a class skill truly suited to the Blood Shadow Hunter. Opening it produced the excellent grade Blood Shadow Hunter skill Soul Hunting Judgment Arrow, which charged and fired a powerful shot dealing massive physical damage with bonus soul hunting damage against marked, bleeding, slowed, or bound targets on a 90-second cooldown. A perfect complement to his existing kit of Shadow Blood Mark, the Blood Mirror Quiver's bleed effect, and the soul-locking Hunting Cage Array's slow and bind effects, meaning nearly every target he faced would already carry the bonus conditions. He learned it immediately and kept opening chests, next pulling Shadow Hunter Flash Step, an instant displacement skill that boosted the next weak point attack's damage, with extra bonus if positioned behind or beside the target afterward. Filling a gap in his mobility toolkit beyond Gale Step, Shadow Hunting Step, and Scrolls, which were sometimes banned in special areas. A third opening produced Blood Shadow Substitution, a life-saving skill that consumed a Shadow Blood Mark stack to negate fatal damage and spawn a confusing Blood Shadow clone, stacking with his existing Mirror Shadow Substitute for dual protection, with marks accumulating naturally from elite-grade kills and above, meaning his fault tolerance would only grow the more he farmed. Delighted, he kept cracking open chests, converting the flood of duplicate skills into proficiency until all three excellent grade skills reached level 10. Soul Hunting Judgment Arrow now dealt 600% physical damage plus 150% soul hunting damage per active status condition, and guaranteed a Soul Hunting Arrow shadow trigger on weakness hits. Shadow Hunter Flash Step boosted the next weak point attack by 80%, with an extra 50% from positional bonus and a chance to refresh its cooldown on kill. And Blood Shadow Substitution's clone now lasted 8 seconds and could draw enemy aggro. Looking over the panel, Lu Chen recognized this as a genuine qualitative leap. Burst damage, mobility with amplification, and survival all fully covered, meaning the sunken ancient forest's danger level would have to answer to his complete kit first. Continuing to open chests, after roughly 500 he pulled a special item. A Wuchen Spirit Peach Core capable of being planted to eventually bear spirit peaches of varying lifespan effects, which struck him as essentially combining the longevity soil and spirit liquid he'd found earlier. Amused, he mused about becoming a large-scale agricultural tycoon given his infinite supply of cores, joking that he really did need to buy a residence soon to plant a whole grove of spirit peach trees. Meanwhile, at the Blackstone City teleportation array, Bai He and Kuang Dao stepped through together. Bai He in fine-grade mixed priest gear with a bronze staff, Kuang Dao in insect king leather armor with a reinforced battle saber, both level 10. And as Bai He took in the city's grandeur, Kuang Dao's mood soured immediately upon checking the leaderboards and seeing Night God dominating everything. First on the level leaderboard at level 19, holding 13 of the top 10 equipment leaderboard spots, first on the Dungeon Contribution, Regional Contribution, and Hunter Association Contribution leaderboards. Kuang Dao fell silent, lamenting that despite everything he'd managed to hold on to only 43 years of lifespan, while Night God had already reached level 19 and swept every leaderboard, wondering aloud whether he was witnessing the rise of a genius, and Bai He, patting his shoulder, only made things worse by mentioning that Night God's lifespan already exceeded 300 years, prompting Kuang Dao to suggest they simply head into the main city and focus on building their guild as a foundation for the future. Early the next morning at the Silver Deer Inn, Lu Chen was roused by a system prompt announcing that a new day had begun and that the daily absorption limits for lifespan-type items had refreshed. 10 lifespan fruit, 10 lifespan crystal, and 5 spring longevity peach. His lifespan had already climbed to 490 years before sleep, an outrageous figure among Blue Star Civilization players, and it was about to climb further. He absorbed 10 lifespan fruit for 50 years, 10 lifespan crystal for 10 years, and finally 5 spring longevity peaches, savoring the sweetness of each bite like something out of a monkey feasting on flat peaches for another 250 years. A total daily gain of 310 years, pushing his current lifespan to a staggering 800. Waking up and watching his number leap from 490 to 800 in a single sleep felt beyond any normal notion of lifespan growth. This was less an increase than a total trampling of the lifespan leaderboard. He casually ate breakfast. Blackstone barbecue, cloud featherbird meatballs, and a cup of life soda. While checking the Blue Star Civilization leaderboard, which refreshed to show him first with 800 years. Augustus second at 128. Balu third at 122. Miyamoto Sosuke fourth at 118. And Thunder God Thomas fifth at 115. A gap of 672 years between first and second place. The Blue Star channel fell silent for 3 seconds before erupting entirely, voices piling on top of each other. Thunder God Thomas simply stunned. Miyamoto Sosuke wondering if the system was malfunctioning. Augustus calling it a number no normal player could achieve. Taishan recalling that night God had only been past 400 years the day before, and wondering how sleeping alone added another 300 plus. And Yuba's joking about a fountain of youth. Someone accusing him of hacking while a Daxia player mocked the very idea of reporting anything in a game already run by God's domain. Others demanding he make his method public as a shared resource. A Daxia player retorting about people always eyeing others' belongings, and still others offering to buy the intelligence outright. With a Daxia voice teasing that night, God surely didn't care about their petty cash. Amused by one particular message asking if he'd drunk the soup of immortality, Lu Chen sipped his life soda and replied dryly that the secret was drinking more water, having less sex, exercising more, and staying up less every morning. A jab that set off a fresh wave of indignation, with Taishan cackling, Thunder God Thomas defending North America's bedroom-centric pride as their own secret to longevity, and various Daxia players piling on with jokes at everyone else's expense. The whole exchange amusing enough that Lu Chen treated it as daily entertainment before finishing breakfast and closing the channel. After confirming his status was in order, Lu Chen got up to head toward the sunken ancient forest, only to be interrupted by a friend message from Bai He asking if he had a moment to chat. When Lu Chen agreed, Bai He revealed he'd completed the guild's founding, tentatively named the White River Alliance, drawing its core membership from Novice Village No. 9,527 along with players absorbed from other Huxia novice villages and invited Lu Chen to join. Lu Chen declined without hesitation, having no interest in being tied down by guild membership, especially since even a guild shop would pale next to the Hunter Association's or the Blackstone Chamber of Commerce's offerings. But when Bai He, unsurprised by the refusal, instead asked for a batch of supplies, promising to prioritize Lu Chen's future requests at the top of the guild's quest board once membership grew. Lu Chen recognized the opportunity. Bai He was a level-headed operator, unlike the impulsive Kuang Dao, and if cultivated well, the White River Alliance could effectively become his agent among the player base in Blackstone City. Bai He explained the guild's dire need for startup resources. Potions, food, low-level equipment, traps, antidotes, return scrolls, skill books, everything. Given their limited funds, and openly asked for investment from a big backer. Lu Chen understood the pressure of starting a guild from scratch in a city where everything cost silver, gold, or purple gold coins, and decided it didn't matter to him. He had a favor to ask in return anyway. He offered to provide startup resources on the condition he secure him a mansion inside Blackstone City. The bigger the better, ideally with farmland and warehouses, plus a staff of maids or female servants prioritized for skills in cooking, medicine refining, farming, warehouse organization, purchasing, and intelligence gathering. Bai He, visibly stunned, asked whether Lu Chen planned to settle down in Blackstone City, and Lu Chen clarified it was only a temporary stronghold. Though when Bai He noted that residences required purple gold coins typically held only by major chambers of commerce. Lu Chen simply confirmed he had them too, leaving Bai He shocked all over again at night, God's apparent wealth. Bai He agreed to keep an eye out, asking about budget, and Lu Chen told him there was none. The more luxurious, the better. Prompting Bai He to also ask, somewhat carefully, whether there were any dietary restrictions to account for regarding the maids, which caught Lu Chen off guard at how thorough Bai He was being. He simply told him to arrange things as he saw fit. Lu Chen then transferred over a dense list of guild startup resources. 2,000 intermediate life potions, 2,000 intermediate mana potions, 200 return scrolls, 100 low-level barrier scrolls, various basic equipment, and more. All low-level enough not to disrupt the market if they leaked out, though Bai He, upon seeing the list, was momentarily stunned speechless. This wasn't startup capital. It was a windfall, especially the skill books. 100 white tier and 30 fine tier. Resources that could genuinely change an ordinary player's fortunes. He confirmed receipt and promised to handle everything well, adding that the guild would prioritize sharing any new materials, blueprints, or dungeon clues with Lu Chen going forward, which Lu Chen accepted before heading out toward the north gate. A warning announced that Lu Chen was approaching the hidden area of the sunken ancient forest, with an exquisite-grade boss wake-up countdown of 2 days and 12 hours remaining, cautioning about high black fog concentration and effects including health drain, mental erosion, and vision suppression, and warning that dying inside might cost a massive amount of health. A first for Lu Chen, signaling that this hidden area's difficulty likely exceeded anything he'd faced before. After arranging his potions and tidying his status, he stepped into the forest. By the third step, all surrounding sound vanished entirely as a prompt confirmed he'd entered the periphery, his vision reduced by the black fog and his health draining at 0.5% per second, though the Breath of Spring Longevity and Withered Spring Amulet both kicked in to reduce the effect down to an actual drain of 0.18% per second. Still substantial, he noted, and without those two protections, even he might have panicked coming in, let alone an ordinary player. He pulled out an advanced guiding lake lamp, its deep blue light illuminating the fog a dozen meters ahead before the fog surged back and suppressed its range, prompting Lu Chen to simply pull out dozens of lamps at once and scatter them everywhere to force some illumination. Pressing forward across thick, rotting leaves that oozed dark brown sap with every step, his black crystal hunter crown suddenly flared with hunter crown vision, revealing a disguised target. The shadows of 3 withered trees ahead, moving independently of their unmoving trunks, closing in bit by bit. Amused at the poor disguise, Lu Chen fired an arrow that tore through the fog and pierced the shadow cluster for 28,640 weakness damage, forcing it to materialize with a canine scream into a level 18 sunken fog tree hound, a rare monster with 42,000 GP and skills including black fog stealth, tree shadow pounce, and rotten wood bite. Before it could steady itself, Shadow Bloodmark landed, and a follow-up armor-piercing arrow dealt 19,800 plus 15,420 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow and 13,200 from Shadow Blood damage, emptying its health bar for 9,000 exp and infinite sunken fog canine tooth and fog rotten tree bark. The kill stirred the surrounding fog, drawing more tree shadows. First one, then 5, then a dozen. As a warning announced that killing the hound had alerted the ancient forest patrol hunting group, and rather than retreat, Lu Chen advanced, crouching to deploy the soul-locking hunting cage array across the rotting leaves just as a dozen sunken fog tree hounds pounced out, instantly slowed by the array before storm arrow rain tore through them with a string of hits including a critical 23,500, several attempting to burrow back into the shadows, only to be exposed by his crown and shadow blood perception, letting him fire 3 arrows that exploded 3 hidden hounds outright for another string of soul-hunting stacks boosted further by his soul-hunting potion. The entire first wave fell within a minute, netting infinite sunken fog canine heart, and Lu Chen noted with interest that monsters in the sunken ancient forest yielded unusually high soul-hunting stacks. Dangerous ground, but genuinely lucrative too. Pressing deeper, the fog thickened, and the trees grew grotesque, bark swelling and branches drooping with black mucus, until a deer stepped into view, grazing on rotting leaves. A warning flagged mental erosion from being gazed upon by the black vine deer corpse, though black crystal concentration reduced the effect, and Lu Chen realized with alarm that the deer had no eyes at all, only twin clumps of black fog in its sockets. Identified as a level 1 rare elite with 120,000 GP and skills, including Deer Cry, Soul Capture, Black Vine Entanglement, and Rotten Bud Regeneration, the creature let out a piercing cry before Lu Chen could even fire. Deer Cry Soul Capture, twisting his vision so that the surrounding trees appeared as hanging hunters, all opening their eyes and smiling at him simultaneously. An illusion effect drastically weakened by his crown and the breath of spring longevity before it tore apart, though the brief instant gave the deer its opening. Reacting quickly, Lu Chen used Shadow Hunter Flash Step to vanish and reappear beside the deer just as its attack landed on empty ground, gaining a positional damage bonus, and chained Crystal Eye Lock onto its weakness, the black vine core at the base of its neck. followed by Shadow Blood Mark and Shadow Hunting Step, before firing a fully charged Soul Hunting Judgment arrow that struck true for 168,400 weakness damage, a guaranteed critical from Crystal Eyelock. Full Soul Hunting Judgment arrow bonus damage, and a guaranteed Soul Hunting arrow shadow trigger for 58,600 plus 42,100 from Shadow Blood damage, instantly evaporating its health bar and collapsing its massive body into a pile of black vines and shattered bone for 30,000 exp and infinite black vine deer bone and rotten bud spirit core. Lu Chen nodded in satisfaction at the near 100,000 burst from the Judgment Arrow, especially devastating when stacked against marked, bleeding, slowed, or bound targets. This arrow, he thought, was judgment itself. Continuing on, the ground trembled slightly as a warning, announced that killing a patrol hunting unit had stirred the ancient forest's black fog into activity, pushing the beast horde progress to 12%. A figure that gave Lu Chen pause, and before he could think it through, an entire patch of red dots appeared simultaneously within his shadow blood perception, far more than a mere group. Preparing for a fierce battle, he drank a bottle of soul-hunting potion, replenished with a sunken wood anti-poison pill, and gripped his bow tighter as his soul-hunting mark ticked past 1,320 stacks for a permanent 1% weakness damage bonus. A low deer cry echoed from deep within the forest, and a warning flag that he was being watched by something ancient and deep within the woods. With more forest units actively closing in, Lu Chen scattered a dozen advanced guiding lake lamps to illuminate the area and deployed the soul-locking hunting cage array on the open ground ahead, ringed with advanced animal traps. Sensing something was off as countless crimson eyes began igniting in the black fog around him before he loosed his first arrow. The moment storm arrow rain fell, the outer perimeter of the sunken ancient forest erupted as the blood-silver arrow light tore through the black fog and stripped away every hidden monster's disguise, landing hits ranging up to a 26,900 critical and a 31,200 weakness hit that killed a sunken fog tree hound, a rotten leaf hunting crow, and a black vine deer corpse in the same volley, each kill refunding storm arrow rain's cooldown and stacking soul hunting. Within the fog, another rotten leaf hunting crow, a level 18 rare monster with 36,000 GP and skills including Rotten Feather Slash, Black Fog Screech, and Eye Peck, swooped down clutching a severed human finger in its beak and charged straight for Lu Chen's eyes at high speed. His hunter crown vision flagged its weak point before it even landed, and without looking up, he used Shadow Hunter Flash Step to sidestep the pounce entirely, then turned and fired an arrow for a 74,200 weakness hit plus 28,600 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow, exploding the crow into black feathers for an infinite drop of rotten leaf crow feather. But Lu Chen felt no satisfaction, having noticed something far more troubling. The corpses of everything he killed weren't disappearing but melting straight back into the ground, with a prompt confirming the sunken ancient forest was recycling dead units and that black fog activity, along with beast-tide progress, was rising rather than falling. Puzzled by why killing monsters would accelerate rather than slow the tide, Lu Chen suspected the awakening boss might be using these corpses as nutrients. The more he killed, the faster it woke. A genuinely unsettling realization that only made things more interesting to him. Pressing deeper, nearby tree branches suddenly coiled toward him like snakes. He shattered them with an arrow for 39,800 damage, but another tree split open beside him, revealing a giant mouth lined with human teeth. A level 1 rare monster with 80,000 HP and skills including Camouflage, Devour, Root Bind, and Corpse Recycling, snapping shut toward him as roots erupted from beneath the leaves to entangle his ankles, slowing him though his crown weakened the bind's effectiveness. Refusing to be the only one who knew crowd control, Lu Chen deployed the soul-locking hunting cage array beneath his own feet, locking down the very roots that had bound him, and with the giant mouth mere meters away, activated Crystal Eyelock on its oral cavity before chaining Shadow, Blood Mark, and firing a soul-hunting judgment arrow straight into its depths for a critical weakness hit of 186,000 plus 42,200 from extra soul-hunting damage and 50,600 from soul-hunting arrow shadow, exploding the entire tree from within for 38,000 exp and an excellent grade sunken fog tree core. The forest's first excellent grade resource, described as capable of crafting wood-type, black fog-type, and life erosion-type equipment, as well as anti-black fog potions, which Lu Chen judged made the whole trip worthwhile. Just then, a soft voice called out from the surrounding fog. sounding exactly like Beilu, begging him to save her. And a white gold figure resembling her precisely, down to the hairstyle and profile, loomed indistinctly in the mist. Lu Chen calmly raised his bow, remarking that the impersonation wasn't very convincing, prompting the figure to stiffen before its face split open to reveal black fangs, identified as a level 1 rare elite with 100,000 GP in skills including mimicry, metamorphosis, mental devouring, and backstab parasitism. The fog voice false spirit, still mimicking Beilu's voice and asking why he wasn't saving her, to which Lu Chen replied indifferently that he had no reason to save something so ugly, leaving the creature dumbfounded at his complete lack of what it presumably considered decency. Taking advantage of its distraction, Lu Chen used Shadow Hunter Flash Step to vanish and reappear behind it, firing a Shadow Strike arrow for a 109,000 weakness hit boosted by the Flash Step's positional bonus, plus 41,600 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow, tearing a huge hole through its body and drawing a miserable scream. When it tried transforming into fog to flee, he'd already scattered anti-invisibility powder, taunting it before finishing it with a soul-hunting judgment arrow for 102,000 damage, pinning it to a dead tree for good. Successfully killed for 52,000 exp, an infinite fog voice soul core, and a rare grade vocal mimicry decoy skill book, a non-burst but highly useful utility skill for aggroing monsters, scouting, or luring boss abilities that Lu Chen learned and quickly stacked to level 10 using infinite copies, granting a 20-second phantom capable of mimicking a designated voice to attract monster aggro. Remarking wryly on how underhanded the creatures of the sunken ancient forest could be, Lu Chen pressed on deeper, soon passing beyond the outer perimeter into thickening black fog beneath a canopy so dense almost no light reached the ground, where corpses, mostly NPC hunters, with a fair number of monster remains as well, began littering the forest floor. He arrived at the center of a sunken clearing where a deer-shaped monster stood, ordinary in size but with a small black tree growing from its back, its branches hung with unformed black fog flesh cocoons. Identified as a level 20 Mist Nest Deer King Juvenile, an excellence grade elite with a startling 260,000 GP and skills including Mist Fetus Hatching, Deer Call Soul Stealing, Ancient Forest Symbiosis, and Black Fog Collision. Slightly stunned at the HP total alone, Lu Chen reassured himself that his own damage wasn't lacking either. Just as the creature let out a soft deer call that split open its surrounding flesh cocoons, releasing 30 level 18 Mist Fetus Beasts, rare monsters with 40,000 GP each. Noticeably stronger right out of the gate than the earlier Black Crystal monsters, though Lu Chen only grinned at the thought of more free soul hunting delivered straight to him. He deployed the soul-locking hunting cage array and threw the vocal mimicry decoy into its center. The synergy between the two proving excellent as a voice identical to his own drew the beasts pouncing straight into the formation, letting Storm Arrow rain from outside the array, shatter them in waves, pushing his soul-hunting stacks past 2,000 and consuming 1,000 for another permanent 1% weakness damage bonus, bringing his total permanent bonus to 2%. Seeing its beasts cleared quickly, the Deer King Juvenile rooted its back tree deep into the ground, activating Ancient Forest Symbiosis to draw healing from a dozen surrounding ancient trees, prompting Lu Chen to fire 5 consecutive poison burst arrows that pushed it into corrosive poison, cutting its healing by 70% and suppressing the regeneration. Realizing the flesh cocoons alone couldn't do enough damage, the creature turned into a streak of black fog and charged Lu Chen directly with Black Fog Collision at tremendous speed. But rather than teleport away with a scroll, Lu Chen used Shadow Hunter Flash Step to vanish, letting the charge smash through 3 ancient trees where he'd stood before reappearing behind the juvenile, locking its back weakness with Crystal Eye Lock, chaining Shadow, Bloodmark, and Shadow Hunting Step, and unleashing a fully drawn soul-hunting judgment arrow straight into the core of its back tree for a weakness critical of 238,000, boosted further by the presence of Mark, Slow, Corrosive Poison, and Formation Suppression states, plus a guaranteed 72,800 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow, emptying its entire health bar in a single arrow before it could even enter a second phase. Even Lu Chen was impressed with himself, joking that it was fortunate he was the one cheating. Otherwise, he'd want to report it, as the kill yielded 120,000 exp, Infinite Excellence Grade Mist Nest Antler and Mist Nest Juvenile Core materials, an Infinite Excellence Grade Mist Shadow Hunting Domain skill book, and a level up to 20 with the usual attribute rewards. Excited at the 2 Excellence Grade materials and skill book, Lu Chen checked the new ability. A domain-type skill that, once deployed, boosted his own stealth, weakness perception, and ranged hit rate while reducing enemy vision, perception, and movement speed within its range. Recognizing the value immediately, he learned it and burned through infinite skill books to stack it to level 10, extending its duration to 60 seconds with a further boost to all its effects, plus a trait guaranteeing an extra instance of missed shadow damage on the first weakness hit landed within the domain. Delighted at having earned an exclusive home field skill from the sunken ancient forest, he laughed to himself, imagining missed shadow hunting domain paired with the soul-locking hunting cage array, practically hanging every status effect on an enemy at once, joking that he might as well start calling it his personal hunting domain, before quickly composing himself as he watched the Deer King Juvenile's corpse being slowly swallowed into the ground, a bad feeling creeping over him. Suddenly, an even louder deer call echoed from deeper within the forest, the ground trembling as black fog surged out, and a system prompt flashed a warning that killing the juvenile had increased the beast's tide progress to 24%. Lu Chen's expression darkened at the confirmation of his earlier guess. The corpses were indeed being used as nourishment to force an even more powerful entity awake ahead of schedule. And, nodding to himself, he turned his gaze deeper into the ancient forest, resolving that he needed to kill it quickly. A warning announced that continuing deeper would enter the boss's domain, where a level 20 mist nest mother deer, an excellent grade boss, was awakening. As Lu Chen advanced, the massive figure deep within the black fog grew clearer, and he guessed correctly that this must be the creature Grayson had mentioned. Clearly no simple fight. Before officially crossing into its territory, he maxed out his status with a round of potions, and moments later the fog rolled violently as trees bent away on either side, as if making way, before a giant deer-shaped monster stepped forward. Its body exceeding 10 meters, a twisted ancient tree growing from its back hung with countless black fog meat cocoons wrapped in mist and white bone, its eye sockets holding nothing but bottomless pools of black fog. Identified as the level 20 mist nest mother deer, an excellent grade boss with a staggering 1,800,000 GP and skills including black fog displacement, deer call soul seizing, mist fetus incubation, ancient forest symbiosis, and mist nest rampage. Described as the core nest mother of the sunken ancient forest, capable of triggering a small beast tide if fully awakened. Lu Chen was genuinely stunned by the scale of it, recognizing that even the earlier Deer King Juvenile, itself an excellence grade elite, was nowhere near comparable. A warning flashed that he'd been caught in the mist nest domain, his vision shrinking, health continuously draining, and mental erosion rising, though his breath of spring longevity, withered spring amulet, and black crystal hunter crown together weakened every negative effect. A relief, since the debuffs had stacked to maximum the instant he stepped in, and without countermeasures he might genuinely have fallen there that day. Taking this boss seriously, he moved to deploy the soul-locking hunting cage array, but before it could land, the deer's massive body simply vanished in a roll of black fog displacement, reappearing behind him according to his crown's hunter crown vision, prompting Lu Chen to use Shadow Hunter Flash Step to shift sideways just as the deer's antlers swept through the space he'd occupied, shattering 3 ancient trees. Had that landed, even his Wind Guardian wouldn't have softened the blow much. Countering immediately, Lu Chen locked Crystal Eye Lock onto the base of its left antler, cast Shadow Blood Mark, and fired a Shadow Strike arrow that struck true for 86,400 weakness damage, plus 31,200 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow, and 28,600 from Shadow Blood damage. A meaningful chunk against 8 million GP, but far from decisive. The deer answered with a soul-searing cry. Deer call soul seizing, crushing Lu Chen with an inexplicable pressure as he hallucinated a crowd of familiar faces. Quang Dao, Bai He, Balu, Flame Young Master, all calling his name and beckoning him closer. His black crystal concentration reduced the mental erosion, and he shook off the powerful illusion, remarking that without the helmet's protection he'd have been finished. Before drinking an intermediate mental potion to fully restore his state and activating his newly acquired mist shadow hunting domain, unfolding a grayish-black field centered on himself that sliced through the deer's own black fog domain. Mist against mist, shadow against shadow, visibly catching the boss off guard at being countered within its own territory. Seizing the moment, Lu Chen dropped the soul-locking hunting cage array again, this time successfully covering the deer's front hooves and slowing its movement and evasion through beast cage suppression. Then pulled his bow to its limit and chained Shadow Hunting Step with Shadow Hunter Flash Step to reposition directly behind and beside the deer, firing a Soul Hunting Judgment arrow into the heart of the black tree on its back for a weakness hit of 176,800. Guaranteed critical from Crystal Eye Lock, boosted by the mark, slow, and array suppression states for another 52,400 from Soul Hunting bonus damage, a guaranteed 48,600 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow, and 33,600 from his domain's own Mist Shadow damage bonus. A massive combined burst that dropped the boss from 1.8 million to roughly 1.4 million GP. Enraged, the deer's back cocoons began pulsing wildly as Mist Fetus Incubation released more than 20 level 18 Mist Fetus beasts, each with 42,000 GP, and Lu Chen grinned at yet another free delivery of soul hunting material, throwing out a vocal mimicry decoy that lured the beasts into the soul-locking hunting cage array before Storm Arrow Rain shattered them wholesale, pushing his soul hunting stacks past 3,020 and consuming another 1,000 for a permanent weakness damage bonus now at 3%. Amused, Lu Chen thanked the boss for its unwitting cooperation, and the Mist Nest mother deer, seeming to grasp the mockery, plunged its antlers violently into the ground, causing the roots of the entire ancient forest to tremble as it activated ancient forest symbiosis. Countless black roots stretched in from every direction to connect with the Mist Nest mother deer, and the health she just lost began slowly climbing back as ancient forest symbiosis kicked in fully. Lu Chen's gaze hardened at the sight of her attempting to heal, and he fired 5 rapid poison burst arrows into the ground at her feet, triggering corrosive poison and cutting her recovery by 70%. Though the healing didn't stop entirely, since only severing every connected root would fully cut it off. Using Shadow Hunter Flash Step to weave continuously through the forest, he unleashed burst arrow after burst arrow, specifically targeting the tree roots feeding into her, and before long they were blown apart, weakening ancient forest symbiosis and interrupting her recovery entirely. Enraged, the deer let out an angry cry as the black mist contracted sharply and her massive body turned into a black shadow, charging directly at him with a black mist displacement charge faster than her previous attack. And just as Lu Chen prepared to flash step away, the ground beneath him split open, black vines wrapping his ankles under a black vine binding effect that slowed his movement and interfered with his flash step casting. A clear combo meant to pin him in place before the charge landed. He activated Wind Guardian and a low-level barrier scroll simultaneously, but the deer's charge shattered the barrier outright and slammed into him despite Wind Guardian absorbing 3,200 of the damage, leaving him to take 960. His health bar dropping a chunk but posing no real danger, and he quickly chugged several intermediate life potions to refill it before laying down the soul-locking hunting cage array's subformation right beneath his own feet, locking the black vines back down and briefly staggering the deer in the process. A clear opening. Using the remaining duration of Mist Shadow Hunting Domain, Lu Chen repositioned to the deer's rear right with Shadow Hunter Flash Step, locking Crystal Eye Lock onto a new weakness. A Mist Nest fissure on her right ribs, and refreshing Shadow Blood Mark. With Soul Hunting Judgment Arrow's cooldown not quite ready, he opened instead with a Shadow Strike Arrow for a 93,800 weakness, hit plus 36,600 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow and 30,400 from Shadow Blood damage, dropping her health to roughly 1.05 million, nearly halving her first phase. But right then, the black mist nest on her back began splitting open. A series of heartbeats sounding from within as a system prompt announced her health had fallen below 60%, triggering the shift into a second phase. And, to Lu Chen's frustration, pushing the beast tide progress up again, now to 28%. Unwilling to dwell on that concern with the fight still raging, he resolved simply that the mother deer had to die today. The mist nest fully split apart, revealing a huge black eyeball opening from its depths as the Mist Nest mother deer entered its second phase, Mist Nest Rampage. Black mist density increasing, mist fetus hatching, accelerating, deer cry, soul seizing strengthening, and black mist displacement's cooldown shortening. The pressure around Lu Chen rose sharply, along with a heavily compressed field of vision, though his breath of spring longevity, withered spring amulet, and black crystal concentration all activated to blunt the escalating erosion. Still increasing regardless, but manageable. Undeterred, Lu Chen drank a bottle of withered spring spirit dew, followed by another soul-hunting potion, then activated blood shadow substitution, confirming his shadow blood marks were fully stacked at 5 out of 5, and raised his bow toward the black eyeball opening behind the deer. Clearly the second phase's core weakness, vowing that his next arrow would take that eye first. That eyeball, nestled deep within the mist nest and surrounded by countless black tree roots, currently sat within a mist nest mother deer reading 1,054,000 of 1,800,000 GP. The next moment, the deer raised her head and neighed as more than a dozen flesh cocoons exploded across the mist nest on her back, releasing mist fetus beasts that expanded on landing into half-deer, half-tree monsters. 36 level 19 rare monsters with 52,000 GP each. But rather than rushing Lu Chen, they instead crawled toward the mother deer's feet, triggering mist fetus sacrifice, a mechanic that healed her on contact. Alarmed at this new trick, Lu Chen threw out a vocal mimicry decoy that drew a portion of the beasts to pause, though they didn't fully commit to either the cage array or their approach to the deer, prompting him to prioritize, killing them quickly with a storm arrow rain that crushed over 20 on the spot, including a critical 28,600, refunding the skill's cooldown on the kill, and continuing to pile up soul-hunting stacks. Even with the beasts dying, the boss pressed on regardless, her black eyeball snapping open wide to unleash a rippling wave of enhanced deer cry soul-seizing, twisting Lu Chen's vision into a hallucination of himself, standing atop the walls of Blackstone City as beast hordes swallowed the city below, with Bai He, Wild Blade, White Deer, and other players vanishing beneath the black mist. The mental erosion this time was stronger, though black crystal concentration still significantly weakened it, tearing the illusion apart after roughly 2 seconds of control. More than twice as long as before, Lu Chen drank several bottles of intermediate mental potions to fully recover, then redeployed Mist Shadow Hunting Domain, its gray-black field colliding once more with the deer's own Black Mist domain, just as her massive body vanished again with Black Mist displacement. This time reappearing not behind him but directly above his head, her enormous mist-shrouded hooves stomping down with a devastating mist nest trampling. The ground collapsed as Lu Chen dodged the first kick with Shadowhunter Flash Step, but the second kick followed too fast to evade, forcing him to activate Wind Guardian and a barrier scroll head-on, shattering barrier after barrier as he muttered that surely all these infinite barriers had to be annoying her by now. Furious, the mist nest mother deer stomped randomly with her front legs while the eyeball on her back seized the moment to fire a black fog beam straight at his chest. And just as he landed, roots wrapped around his feet again, leaving him no way to dodge the mist nest gaze. The beam pierced clean through his body, triggering a fatal damage warning that was instantly negated by blood shadow substitution, consuming a mark to shatter him into a blood shadow decoy while the real Lu Chen reappeared 20 meters away, the lingering shadow briefly drawing the boss's attention, coldly acknowledging how ruthless that hit had been. Without the substitution, he'd have been crippled, even if not killed. He chugged several intermediate health potions to refill his HP and drank a soul-hunting potion to refresh his buffs, checking his stacks at 4,380 before immediately consuming 100 to temporarily enhance soul-hunting judgment arrows damage. Rather than fire immediately while the deer kept repositioning at high speed, he moved first to restrict her, dropping the soul-locking hunting cage array along with high-grade animal traps, stinger mechanisms, and damaged hunting nets, just as her hooves stepped into the array's edge, slowing her movement and evasion through beast cage suppression. He reactivated Crystal Eye Lock on the mist nest eyeball on her back, refreshed Shadow, Blood Mark, and fired 3 consecutive poison burst arrows to inflict corrosive poison and cut her healing by 70%. Stacking every status effect he could before finding his opening. Using Shadowhunter Flash Step to reposition behind and beside her, Lu Chen drew the Beast Cage soul-hunting bow to its limit, condensing black-red soul-hunting energy into a near-solid arrow, and fired a soul-hunting judgment arrow that tore through the fog and struck her back eyeball for a weakness hit of 248,600, amplified by the temporary enhancement and every active status, marked, slowed, corrosive poison, and array suppression. For another 68,200, a guaranteed 59,400 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow, 38,600 from Mist Shadow Hunting Domains bonus, and 45,200 from Shadow Blood damage, a combined burst exceeding 400,000 that ruptured the eyeball and spilled black blood fog, disabling her black fog teleportation and dropping her health from over 1 million to over 600,000 in one motion. Seizing the opening, Lu Chen followed with Storm Arrow Rain, including a 29,800 critical, then continued poking at the eyeball's crack with basic attacks and armor-piercing arrows for hits, including a 104,800 weakness critical, prompting the deer to summon a wall of ancient trees for ancient forest protection to shield herself, which Lu Chen blasted a gap through with a series of explosive arrows just as she tried to flee into the deeper fog. Declaring it too late for that, he threw out a vocal mimicry decoy that distracted her for a split second with his own voice calling from the opposite side, then used Shadowhunter Flash Step to appear directly behind her, refreshed Crystal Eye Lock on the eyeball's crack, and fired a Shadow Strike arrow for a weakness hit of 118,900 plus 43,800 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow and 39,200 from Shadow Blood damage, dropping her health below 300,000. Just then her mist nest exploded outward, rupturing countless flesh cocoons as she cast her ultimate skill, Mist Nest Riot, threatening to hatch a massive wave of mist fetus beasts. Lu Chen suspected she intended to take him down alongside her, and refused to let her escape, scattering more traps and declaring he wouldn't allow it before every hatched beast was heavily controlled and cleared wave after wave with Storm Arrow Rain, stacking soul hunting all the while. Letting out a final roar, the deer lowered her broken antlers and charged him with her remaining health. Lu Chen didn't dodge. Blood Shadow Substitution still had marks left and Wind Guardian was off cooldown, but chose not to tank it either, instead pouring every remaining status into a final arrow that struck the crack in her eyeball for a weakness hit of 126,400, a critical trigger adding 48,600 from Soul Hunting Arrow Shadow and 41,200 from Shadow Blood damage, freezing her charge mid-motion less than 5 meters from him before her back eyeball burst open entirely, spraying black liquid as she let out a wail and crashed heavily to the ground. Successfully killing the level 20 Mist Nest Mother Deer, an Excellence Grade boss, earned him 800,000 exp, terminated the boss awakening countdown, and granted 200 Blackstone City reputation, 200 Hunter Association reputation, 5,000 Ancient Forest contribution value. The title Sunken Ancient Forest Pioneer, an Infinite Excellence Grade Mist Deer Crown, an Infinite Excellence Grade Mist Nest Core Material, an Infinite Excellence Grade Black Fog Judgment Skill Book, an Infinite Excellence Grade Sunken Ancient Forest Treasure Chest, and a level up to 22, bringing 2 years of lifespan and enhanced attribute rewards, all funneled once more into agility. Lu Chen exhaled slowly, satisfied at how good it felt as golden light continued washing over him and his status fully recovered. And far off, toward Blackstone City, a regional announcement began echoing across the sky. A regional announcement rang out across Blackstone City, declaring that Night God had successfully killed the Sunken Ancient Forest's excellent grade boss, the Mist Nest Mother Deer, achieving the city's first excellent grade boss first kill and earning bonus rewards. 500,000 additional exp, 300 Blackstone City reputation, 300 Hunter Association reputation, 500 Sunken Ancient Forest reputation, 50 free attribute points, 50 skill points, and 100 years of lifespan, alongside an Infinite Excellent Grade Random Class Skill Chest, an Infinite Excellent Grade Random Equipment Chest, an Infinite Excellent Grade Optional Material Chest, and a special title called Excellent Prime Hunter. While the Sunken Ancient Forest's reputation system activated, and its danger level began dropping as Night God topped the city's total contribution ranking outright. The dense string of notifications left every player in Blackstone City stunned, murmuring in disbelief that Night God had soloed an excellent grade boss, despite being only level 19 the day before, wondering just how generous boss kill rewards could get with 500,000 exp and 100 years of lifespan on the line. At the White River Alliance's temporary camp, he fell silent for a long moment before simply telling everyone to hold onto the sunken wood anti-poison pills and withered spring spirit dew Night God had given them, predicting the outer sunken ancient forest might soon become the next major resource point, while Kuang Dao stood nearby, staring at Night God's name on the leaderboard, unable to snap out of it for a long while. Standing before the Mist Nest Mother Deer's corpse inside the forest, Lu Chen felt his breath catch. An Infinite Excellent Grade Skill Chest, an Infinite Excellent Grade Equipment Chest, an Infinite Excellent Grade Optional Material Chest. An unimaginable haul that meant his skill pool could keep expanding indefinitely, His equipment could keep improving endlessly, and materials were simply his for the choosing. This single wave of first kill rewards had multiplied his total gains several times over, and he couldn't help laughing at how good it felt. Checking his new title, Excellent Prime Hunter, he found it boosted damage against sub-excellent grade monsters by 10%, granted an extra 5% exp on rare grade kills and above, and improved favorability from all hunter-class NPCs in Blackstone City. A strong title he equipped immediately. As for his lifespan, the number now read 903 years. Having only reached 800 that very morning, killing an excellent grade boss had pushed him past 900 in a single stroke, and he laughed at the thought that tomorrow's lifespan fruit, lifespan crystal, and spring longevity peach would add another 310 years on top of that. The lifespan rankings, he mused, were only going to get more absurd from here. Grinning, he decided it was time to head back and start opening chests. Returning to Blackstone City in a flash of white light, Lu Chen skipped the streets entirely and headed straight to the Silver Deer Inn's best suite, sprawling on the bed to begin opening treasure chests, determined to properly sort through everything he'd hauled out of the sunken ancient forest. Starting with the exquisite grade random equipment treasure chest, his first open produced a Mist Shadow Hunter armor of exquisite grade, and rather than pause to inspect it, he plowed straight into opening chest after chest without checking details, urging himself to open everything first and sort it out later. After roughly 600 chests, a system prompt caught his attention. A full set of exquisite grade equipment had been detected in his inventory, asking whether he wanted to equip it now. And he stopped mid-motion in surprise, checking the collected pieces. Hunter armor, hunter bracers, hunter battle boots, hunter cloak, hunter belt, hunter greaves, hunter necklace, and hunter ring, forming the complete Mist Shadow Hunter suit. Its set bonuses thrilled him. 2 pieces boosted weakness damage by 15%, 4 pieces sharpened perception towards stealth, shadow, mist, and disguised units. 6 pieces added bonus mist, shadow damage after any displacement skill, and a full 8 pieces unlocked a Mist Shadow Hunter state for 30 seconds, boosting his own weakness hit rate, critical rate, and movement speed while reducing surrounding enemies' vision and perception. A set that felt tailor-made for his class, synergizing perfectly with Shadow Hunter Flash Step, Crystal Eye Lock, and Mist Shadow Hunting Domain. He swapped out his old gear immediately. The Insect King leather armor for the Mist Shadow Hunter armor, the Shadow Beast cloak for the Mist Shadow Hunter cloak, and the Mirror Lake ring for the new Hunter ring. Though he kept the Beast Cage Soul Hunting bow and Black Crystal Hunter crown untouched, reasoning that the bow was already a perfectly adapted exquisite grade +10 weapon for his soul hunting system, and the crown remained his core for mental resistance and weakness perception. The 8-piece set was already active without needing to force a full head slot match. He then reinforced the entire suit to +10 using infinite exquisite grade equipment strengthening stones, watching blood silver, mist black, and dark gold light effects intertwine and light up the entire Silver Deer suite like a treasure vault. Each set bonus receiving its own enhancement. Stronger weakness damage, better disguise detection, increased Mist Shadow damage, and a Mist Shadow Hunter state extended to 45 seconds. Checking his panel afterward, he found himself at level 22, Blood Shadow Hunter, 903 years lifespan, 7,207,200 GP, 2,950, 2,950ths MP, 1,260 physical attack, 690 agility, 72% critical hit rate, and a greatly increased weakness damage bonus with the full 8-piece +10 suit active. A satisfying, complete build where the entire playstyle, not just raw stats, had been elevated. Without stopping, Lu Chen moved on to skill chests, wanting as many exquisite grade skills as possible. Powerful output, life-saving, and control abilities all needed. His first exquisite grade random class skill chest produced Mist, Shadow, Arrow, Rain, an AO skill releasing arrows over an area that dealt multi-stage ranged damage while reducing enemy vision and movement speed. An upgrade over Storm Arrow Rain that he learned immediately. Continuing, he pulled Soul Hunting Burst Arrow, an explosive AO that dealt soul-hunting damage on impact with bonus damage against marked targets, ideal for clearing groups and countering summoner bosses. And then Thousand Shadows Consecutive Shot, which locked onto and struck up to multiple targets with repeated shadow arrows, dealing increased damage against exposed weaknesses. Delighted, Lu Chen recognized all three as exactly the AO options he'd been lacking beyond his aging Storm Arrow Rain, and he kept opening chests, converting the flood of duplicate skill books into proficiency until all three reached level 10. Mist Shadow Arrow Rain now lasted 5 seconds and reduced enemy movement speed and vision by 40% with increased weakness exposure inside its area. Soul Hunting Burst Arrow gained bonus explosion damage against marked, bleeding, slowed, or bound targets with a chance to trigger a secondary explosion on fine-grade kills and above. And Thousand Shadows consecutive shot could now strike up to 30 targets with up to 3 hits each, guaranteeing a critical on the final arrow against exposed weaknesses. Satisfied, Lu Chen laughed at how comfortable his kit now felt, then turned to the exquisite grade material optional treasure chest. An even simpler affair, since he could simply pick whatever materials he wanted. Deciding to simply select everything available for pure completeness, Lu Chen watched over 100 kinds of materials. Black Mist, Crystal Pith, Sinking Wood Spirit Heart, Fog Nest Bone Marrow, and many more. All turn infinite in his backpack one after another, figuring he'd sort out their usefulness later since it never hurt to be prepared. As he organized his resources, he set aside his older equipment into a separate category, reasoning that while it held little value to him now, ordinary players would consider such gear divine. Though selling too much at once risked disrupting the market, so he decided to keep it for future subordinates or maid guards, or perhaps the occasional auction for fun. Just then, a fresh round of system notifications sounded, announcing the refresh of Blackstone City's Combat Power Leaderboard, Skill Leaderboard, and the synchronized Blue Star Combat Power Leaderboard. And moments later, a citywide announcement revealed the Blackstone City Excellent Equipment Leaderboard, with Night God holding first place with his excellent grade +10 Beast Cage Soul Hunting Bow, all the way down through 10th place with his excellent grade +10 Mist Shadow Hunter Ring. The entire top 10 belonging to him alone, plunging Blackstone City's main street into stunned silence before it erupted into disbelief at an entire excellent grade +10 set, dominating the board while most players were still stuck in mixed fine-grade gear. Before anyone could recover, the skill leaderboard refreshed too, placing Night God's level 10 excellent grade Soul Hunting Judgment Arrow first and his level 10 excellent grade Blood Shadow Substitution 7th, leaving the city's players thoroughly numb at having both the equipment and skill leaderboards swept by the same person. Then came the real shock. The Blue Star Combat Power Leaderboard placed Night God first with a combat power evaluation the system simply couldn't rate, marked only with question marks, while Augustus and Miyamoto Sosuke followed at a grade, and Balu and Thunder God Thomas trailed at a minus, the gap between first and second not even sharing the same rating scale. The Blue Star channel exploded accordingly, voices overlapping. Thunder God Thomas confused by the unrated symbol. Miyamoto Sosuke wondering if the system simply couldn't evaluate him. Augustus conceding that Night God had exceeded the current stage's conventional combat power model entirely. Balu admitting she'd expected as much. Various Daxia and other regional players demanding his equipment secrets be made public while others mocked the demand outright. And Taishan simply pointing out that the top 10 being his was hardly worth asking about. Lu Chen skimmed the channel without bothering to reply. There was no need, since the system announcement had already done all the boasting for him. All he needed to do now was keep getting stronger. Right then, a friend message arrived from Bai He, marveling at Lu Chen's full excellent +10 set, and Lu Chen brushed it off casually as standard procedure, leaving Bai He speechless at the idea of that being standard for anyone. A moment later, Bai He reported progress on the mansion search. An abandoned manor at the junction of the North City Hunter District and the Noble District, spacious, with a medicinal field, warehouse, basement, training ground, stables, and a small abandoned lake, once belonging to a fallen hunter noble family and named Moon Shadow Manor. Lu Chen liked the sound of it immediately and asked about the price. Bai He reported that the manor currently belonged to Blackstone City Real Estate under trusteeship. Vacant for a long time after the original noble family's decline left its barrier damaged and its medicinal fields abandoned. Though its prime location and generous size kept its asking price at 300 purple gold coins, equivalent to 300,000 gold coins, a figure that briefly startled even Lu Chen, since virtually no player in Blackstone City besides NPCs could realistically afford it. Unbothered, since money was no obstacle for him, Lu Chen asked to be taken there right away, and Bai He, after a beat of silence, agreed. In the quieter North District of Blackstone City, Bai He waited at the intersection alongside a middle-aged NPC in a gray robe. Steward Hope of the Blackstone City Real Estate Agency. whose professional composure briefly cracked at the sight of Lu Chen's fully reinforced Mist Shadowhunter suit. Having heard about the gear but clearly still stunned to see the light effects in person, he quickly regained his footing and led the group deeper into the district. Arriving at a tall gray stone wall with an old plaque reading Moon Shadow Manor above its iron gate, which creaked open to release a rush of old, stale air, revealing grounds even more expansive than Lu Chen had imagined. The kind of sprawling estate he'd only ever seen in old browser games, never in a real online world. Walking through the manor grounds, Lu Chen took in an abandoned medicinal herb field on the left, a training ground on the right, and warehouses, stables, a servant's hall, and a small lake further back, as Hope narrated the property's history. Moon Shadow Manor had once belonged to the Moon Shadow family, a hunter noble house of Blackstone City that at its peak produced a gold-grade hunter, before suffering heavy losses in an outside operation and gradually declining, leaving the manor vacant. Though its main residence, warehouses, basement, and training ground remained fully usable, and the overgrown medicinal field still had good soil underneath, and while the old barrier was severely damaged, its array core remained intact. That last detail caught Lu Chen's attention. A private residence needed a barrier, and an intact array core meant repairs would only require materials, something he had no shortage of. Not bad at all. Hope went on to note the property's drawbacks. High maintenance costs, extensive materials needed to repair the barrier, and its sheer size demanding a full staff of servants, which was why it had sat unsold. But none of these were real problems for Lu Chen, who asked directly for the title deed. Surprised, Hope offered him more time to look around, but Lu Chen declined, stating he'd pay in full on the spot, prompting Hope's face to light up as he produced a black title deed listing Moon Shadow Manor's price at 300 purple gold coins. Lu Chen paid without hesitation, receiving the non-duplicable title deed and becoming the manor's official owner. Its status listed as dilapidated, its barrier damaged, its herb field abandoned, 0 current servants, a large warehouse capacity, and a usable basement, all of which Lu Chen judged more than sufficient as a first foothold in the main city. Watching Lu Chen spend 300 purple gold coins without so much as blinking left by, his emotions thoroughly complicated. That sum alone could have funded the White River Alliance's development for a long stretch. Yet Lu Chen treated it as nothing, a gap between them that felt far larger than just money. Pocketing the deed, Lu Chen asked whether Bai He had found servants yet, and Bai He confirmed he'd screened a first batch according to Lu Chen's specifications. Moments later, 5 female NPCs entered the manor, led by a woman in her late 20s with pinned-up black hair, dressed in a tidy maid gown with a calm demeanor. Identified as Aina, a housekeeper specializing in account management, warehouse organization, contract documents, and servant dispatch. Behind her stood Laya the cook, Misha, the apothecary apprentice, Vale the gardener maid, and Nora the bedchamber maid. The last of whom prompted Lu Chen to shoot Bai He a pointed look, silently asking if he was serious, though Bai He only chuckled without answering. After a brief word with each of them, Lu Chen signed long-term employment contracts binding all 5 to him under terms permitting unlimited use of manor materials in exchange for keeping the manor in order and forbidding disclosure of manor information to anyone under penalty of lost lifespan, with each maid earning 1 purple gold coin per month, a wage 10 times what they'd typically earn elsewhere, leaving them overjoyed and eager to serve once the contracts activated in beams of descending light. Bai He, watching the scene, half-jokingly asked whether Lu Chen might also want a servant of his own gender, earning an immediate eye roll and a dismissive, "Get lost," which left Bai He sighing dramatically over the missed opportunity. Though Lu Chen wasn't ungrateful, rewarding him with several fine-grade random class skill books, a batch of potions, and a purple gold coin for his help, leaving Bai He wide-eyed with gratitude and declaring the White River Alliance ready to handle any task Lu Chen ever needed done. Lu Chen laughed that such extremes wouldn't be necessary, but noted he'd come to Bai He again if the manor needed more staff in the future, and after Bai He took his leave, Lu Chen turned to Aina, instructing her to give the main residence a quick clean that night, begin organizing the warehouse and basement the next day, and register everyone who entered the manor going forward. To which Aina responded with a simple, "Yes, master." Climbing to the 2nd floor of the main residence, Lu Chen looked out over the sprawling grounds from the window, already planning to one day fill the entire manor with longevity trees.